Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Hobby Hour with myself, Stuart, and my good friend Dan. How are you going, Dan? You all right?
Yeah, all good, thank you. All good. We've had a nice bit of a chinwag, a preparatory chinwag, as we often do, which has been nice.
A longer one than normal. We're putting the worlds to rights in loads of different ways. But anyway, let's take a very short break and we'll be back with the news. And we're here. We're going to talk about some news to start with. Not that there's lots of news, at least that I've bothered to note down and record. And it's only about a week since we last recorded anyway, because we're trying to squeeze this in before Christmas and do our fun Q&A, which has been great fun. So not an awful lot has happened since. But you picked up on something that is newsworthy
of import. It's the 17th of December. So recording on 17th of December, the Sunday. In 2003, on this day, Return of the King was released, which is pretty cool.
Yes, it's cool. Did you watch it on launch day?
No, it was a Wednesday. I went on the Thursday. I went with my dad each year, and we always went on the Thursday, and we always went to the 8 o'clock showing. I think somewhere I've got the ticket stubs.
I don't think I did. I can't remember now. Too many beers have passed my lips since that happened.
Well, you're uni age when you're around there.
I was post uni then, but I was not long post uni. It would have been in the few years after where I continued to live like a student, sharing a house with mates. But I would have only gone to see it either when my girlfriend at the time came to visit. She didn't live in the same city, which is generally at the weekend every other week, or my mum would come and visit at Christmas to come and see me, and because she was always a big Lord of the Rings fan, I'd quite often save the video time, the cinema visit to go and sit with her. So I generally saw both of them twice. Once taking the poor girlfriend along, and once taking my mum. So back then there would be no FOMO for that. I wanted to see it, but also knew it was going to be out, so I'd just plan in a date and I'd look forward to seeing it. Now I'd be like, I've got to see it. It's a bit weird that I think I didn't have FOMO back then. My life was different.
Couldn't spoil it, could we? The plot had been somewhat obvious for the best part of 50 years by that point.
I would have been super excited to see it, and I remember being super excited to see each of the films as they came out, and that excitement grew. But yeah, there was no FOMO when it came to see it in the cinema. I remember the first time I had FOMO from it was probably grabbing the extended editions on release day. Because I really wanted to see, but that was the first time I was like, right, I'm so invested in this. I was already invested in Lord of the Rings by then, but it's so invested in those films. And having watched the little bits of extras that are on the standard films, I knew how much content was in those extended films. So that was the first time I was like, I'm going to buy those this day. And I remember going into town and buying it in HMV, which surprised me the other day. And I don't go into town very often, and it still exists. How is that shop still on the planet?
You are lucky. Although they've recently, read, reopened in Oxford Street.
Really?
Which is awesome.
There's one in Cheltenham. Maybe that tells you why, because Cheltenham's a little bit not. But
there's one in Northampton as well, so I wouldn't necessarily go with that.
Balance.
Yes, yeah. Petrol demographic, shall we say? No offense, Northampton. But
I live in Gloucester.
Cars, so behave yourself.
There's definitely not one in Gloucester. You'd have to find an empty shop that's not a 99p store or pound store or a £2 store now. Inflation.
Peterborough's no better. There's betting shops, charity shops, pubs, vape shops, bloody vape shops everywhere. So,
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to upset people. So let's, that's cool. That is cool. I didn't feel like I should be watching it or something.
Thing. Yeah. I did contemplate it, if I'm honest. I'd really consider it today, but I had stuff to do and I ran out of time. I thought I can't get the extended done.
I can't watch the theatrical edition, so there's only finding the time to squeeze in an extended
theatrical edition. No.
Oh God.
Superseded doesn't exist, mate.
I think even showing Jacob the first time those films, and he's forgotten them now because he saw them a few years ago. I was like, you've got to see the extended, but we'll just do them in halves. Which in some ways is a good way of doing it, because even the cinematic is still quite long for a younger person to watch. So it's a good reason for watching the the extended edition, especially if they're on.
Did you have to swap the disc?
Yeah, well, not with the Blu-ray ones now. I don't think
You
don't
do
think
with
they
a lot of them.
do
With
they?
4K, you have to. Yeah,
Okay, I
absolutely.
can't remember. I haven't got the 4K one. I've got them on Apple, so
Yeah,
I can
well, so you've
stream
got
them
the
in
4K
4K.
ones.
But I've not bought the physical
Yeah, I've
4K.
got the physical over there, but I've had to keep my Blu-rays because you don't get the special features discs
No,
on
no,
the
no.
4K.
I've kept all my Blu-ray. I've got my standard non-Blu-ray extended ones as well, just as a extra backup and nice to own.
You got
But
petrol
anyway,
Jenny in the basement as well.
oh no, it just takes you back.
He's a
Anyway,
bloody prepper.
I've yeah, I don't keep all things for everything, but those I've got rid of most DVDs actually, but those I've kept. What other? Well, I suppose news wise, there was the big leak, wasn't there? This
the
week for the
box.
old world.
Yeah.
Which I did a short for. Within minutes of people were sending me the pictures. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Martin sent it to me, and I was already on my phone doing my shorts for. I do them so quickly on a Monday because all my shorts I do separately from my Mac. So they're all on a little cheap app. That's why the sound quality is not as good. But I'm there just kind of cropping pictures, putting them in a timeline, and then sitting and running away from the kids for 5 minutes, hiding in a toilet, recording it on my iPhone, hoping that they don't ask me for food or Daddy. Oh, I can't record that bit again. The joys of trying to YouTube and parent. But yeah, it was. For those of you who haven't seen it, I think you're watching this, you probably have.
Well, you have now
Someone,
because it's probably on the screen.
yeah, I'll pop a picture up. Someone that I'm guessing the warehouse at Games Workshop, but I guess it could be a warehouse at the printers. Took pictures of the unmade boxes for the Tomb Kings at launch for the old world, front and back, so you can see all of the sides and you can see what's in there. Looks pretty cool, to be honest with you. I'm not.
I like the blue.
Yeah, I do like the blue. I like the look.
Very fourth ed.
Yeah, you said that the other day, and that didn't immediately jump to me. I always think of fantasy as the red books, but I suppose 6th, 7th, 8th, all red. But the early editions weren't really coloured like that, I suppose. Whether it was blue for 5th, well,
it was
maybe it
Isabel box. That
was
was very red, very red, red era.
So
obviously, first edition was black and white mostly, and
yes,
then red for the following two, and then I think fourth had a lot of blue in it. Definitely helped having a lot of high elves on the front of the box, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but the edges of the box for fourth were still red. I've just had a little look at my box up behind me. Yeah, they are. They were.
But there was a lot of blue in the color palettes and stuff they used.
Oh,
there,
I see what you mean. Yeah, cool. It's just not something that would jump to me as, oh, that's a blue book. Because I think even the red spine on that book. Yeah,
I mean, it's always traditionally, but there's something
spine
about
on that and on. But yeah, I'm not saying it wrong.
Just screams blue to me. I don't know why. It's just that front of that box, the high elf general with the sword and all the blue on the front of it, and it's just very blue. It just makes me think of fourth ed.
But I like the colour anyway. It seems to work really nicely against the logo. And doesn't really matter really. They've picked a colour. I think.
Well, it differentiates it from anything else they may have on the shelves as well. There's nothing else in those colours.
That's what I was going to mention. So Rob Symes on Squarebase did a little announcement video for it as well, and he mentioned it that maybe it's blue because AOS's colour is red, and it is, isn't it? I'm looking at the stuff I've got for this as a Sigmar at the moment, which for my conversion, the AOS colour. It didn't really occur to me till then that if the AOS colour on all the boxes is red, they have to go for different colours so it doesn't get mixed.
I mean 40k is like black and purplish kind of looking because it's got space and stuff.
It's always it's always. I wonder if AOS was a different colour, they would have stuck with the red of the old fantasy. They probably would have, but it's probably we can't really use red so much
white with the old Harry the Hammer style stuff. I think that would have been quite cool.
That would have been
if John Blanche was still around and they'd gone full old school, I'd have loved that.
I get the impression though, unless it was awful, like kind of shockingly, oh, they done there, I would have been happy with quite a few different options. I'm not that tied to any particular color. I quite like the logo, does the job. Anyway, the box art looks amazing. And it's nice to see a big picture on the box art rather than pictures of models and things. I like that. That's kind of reminds me of the old school big Vista style pictures. The new Bone Dragons all over the box as well, which makes a lot of sense because that's the only new model in the kit. Let's be honest. I'm not surprised by the contents as well. We'd not seen an announcement of the range like we did for the Bretonians when they did an article, and this is your
I think we
launch
might
range.
soon, though.
Yeah, I think they might have to soon, and we've been waiting for that. I think we all expected it, didn't we? We talked about this before. We expected that almost a week after, or the next reveal, and that didn't happen. But based on what they announced for the Bretts, I never expected anything new other than maybe one new unit, which they haven't announced. And whether they announce a new unit, I don't know. But I'm still guessing there might well be a new unit if it's going to balance off the same as the Bretts. But I can't see any more than that. So I'm not at all surprised that the skeletons, the horses, the chariots are all.
Well, they were never
stuff.
that bad anyway.
It was going to be. It was always going to be. There was no way that they were going to do what they did with the Bretts. And then suddenly out of the blue, here's a new Two Kings range. I just couldn't see that happening, especially as they've already got quite a lot of more modern kits from 8th Ed, because they had their book in 8th Ed, didn't they, that released a lot of new plastic kits. You got the Necro Sphinx thing. That was a big dual plastic kit. And then you've got your Stalkers and things. They were all newer kits as well. So while there are still some old kits, there's still some fairly new kits, new in terms of did it come out in 8th edition, a lot more than some of the armies out there. So I'm not surprised that we have to stick with those older ones. Having been building and painting lots of them, I don't mind too much, to be honest with you. Mold lines are a bit of a pain. Hopefully, I don't know, they won't have retooled them, because that would have been silly to do. Though the plastic will be better quality now. So I've had lots recently, as people know, they've been watching my videos. Some of the second batch I had were slightly newer, so obviously produced during, I would say, later editions. They said the darker grey plastic, and they were a lot easier to clean up, and they glue a lot better, which is you want, because if you're, I think I've said this before, but if you're buying Tomb Kings and you have only been around with Games Workshop Hobby since AOS and you're used to all these new models, just have a bit of patience while putting together these skeletons, because you are attaching hip bones, spines and heads, and they are small. And there's just a basic contact point, really. You're not, these things don't sort of fit in together the same way, so you find yourself not being able to build at the same speed. You are there holding them together a little bit, even with plastic glue, and then you let go and you turn around and one of the heads has gone, and you're like, it's kind of put it back straight again. So they definitely took me a lot longer to kind of get ready than some of the other stuff I've done. But again, kit didn't really surprise me. I think we'd heard rumors about whether it's a 2-player or the single. We've heard both of those rumors out there. I think it's a smart thing. I think they're aiming at they're aiming at the market that I've said they're aiming at, and lots of other people. It's not my idea, but if they're aiming at that market, which is me, older gamers, rather than bringing in new people away from it. They don't want to bring people necessarily away from AOS. They're bringing back people who haven't played their games for a while since they got rid of fantasy. So those kind of people back, people that also play Heresy, maybe, who from that era, liked these type of games. You've seen with the rules, they're quite crunchy. They've not changed, they've not modernized things that they would do if they're aiming at a new market. So why give them a 2-player start set when all you're going to see is people splitting them? Just give people an army. It's an army in a box. In old money, I think someone totted it up. In old money, it's about 1,000 points, maybe. Around that. That's a really good start. Really good.
Whereas 500 points is neither here nor there. Especially you'd never be able to get one of the big models in there either.
Exactly. The only thing I don't get is if it's not a starter set, if it's not a 2-player starter set, why have you put the whippy sticks in there? Do you have a warehouse full of these things you really need to get rid of? Somewhere, because that's it. Maybe I get the templates, because if they've not been used for a while and you don't own them, to save people having to buy them extra.
Heresy. They said it was a launch
they put the templates,
not a starter set, and they put the whippy sticks in there.
It's the whippy. I'm being a bit flippant, really. It doesn't matter, because I just throw them away. But I don't get why you need 2 whippy sticks unless it's a 2-player starter set. Put the templates in because people need them, and it's nice to give them for free rather than saying, oh, by the way, you now need to also buy these plastic templates, which we got rid of with AOS. So I get that. Whippy sticks, if you're aiming at the veteran gamer, they've got a tape measure. even if they're not gaming, they've got one because they do DIY at home. They've got a tape measure. So the whippy sticks really they are there to,
dispute resolution. That's what whippy sticks are for. Yeah.
I told Jacob what they were really for the other day. And he loves the idea, but I'm definitely keeping him away from them because that would be carnage, especially with my my 4-year-old as well. They would yeah, that would be bad. But I think it looks good. I'm really excited to see the contents of the Bretts. I think we can get it almost. You know, we're going to have some Knights of the Realm, we're going to have some men-at-arms, we're going to have some peasant bowmen, and I'm guessing we're going to have probably the peg stuff. Rider and the new peg, and that will be the new model in that kit. Maybe some peg knights. Yeah, maybe
there'll be peg knights.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, because you've got to balance off the chariots, haven't you?
Yeah.
We haven't really listed the contents of the box. If you haven't seen it, it's lots of skellies, and they're kind of shown and separate. Someone told me the exact contents. They've managed to zoom in on my copies of the pictures. I can't read it, but knowing those frames, you might be able to build them differently anyway. But you've got looks like 40 guys that could be spears or
yeah, and about
swords.
20
and
20 arrows.
Isn't it 30 odd bows or something? I don't know if it's 30 or 16. I can't remember if it's 30 or 16. I can't remember. There's some bows, but those are the same models that can be built in different ways. You may well find you've got enough extras to make them all into, you don't have any bows or you have more bows. Who knows? I don't know what you're going to get in terms of the frames. But the old Skeleton Warriors kits, you know, they're pretty much the same models with just different weapon sprues put in it. But anyway, lots of skellies, 3 chariots, and 16 horse, I think. 16 horse, which again, you might have bow arms left over to build them with bows. I know that my eBay rescues, I've got 12 with bows and I've got 12 with spears. Who knows? Looking at the rules, the way the rules are lining up, looks like it'll be really useful getting around the back, taking away ranks, taking up charges at the rear. So even if I'm using them as flanking forces, really trying to kind of break down those big blocks, remove that kind of inherent steadfast, it looks like it's built into the game now. They might be useful, but who knows if that's the way to go. We haven't seen all the rules, but I think it's great. I don't need it. Unless it's the only way to get the rules, which I can't imagine it will be, I probably wouldn't buy it. And that's not because I don't think it's great. It's because I spent all year buying stuff on eBay, and everything I've got is that basically, and a little bit more. And I'd end up doubling up on stuff that I'm just not going to use and have no points left to spend on the extra. So I need to go and buy some Tomb Guard, and I need to go and buy some Stalkers and what all the other the extra things are. So that will be what I do. And then if I do have to buy a box, I'd probably buy the Brett one. But again, I'm going to guess that I'm not going to need it. So I might just be in a position where I have to buy the rules and hope to buy the new models on eBay if they're only available on the star sets. That'll be my biggest piece, whether I click buy on a full army box just to get my hands on one of the new models or not, which will be my real kind of but first world problems. Anyway, let's move on from those leaks. I want to give out want to talk about Brush and Quill channel. I know that Cal's a lovely guy and he watches the channel, or watches some of the videos on the channel. He comments a lot, and I've been watching some of his stuff recently, and he's doing this advent where he picks out a YouTube channel each time, so opens the door, and each day they're short videos, and he just sort of pimps a different YouTube channel. It's such a lovely thing to do. But he's also doing a raffle linked to a Just Giving. I think it's a Just Giving. I'm going to check live as we speak. Yeah, a Just Giving for WizKids, raising money for the London Marathon. I've been watching a few of his videos recently, and I know he set up this raffle to win a Seraphon Get Started kit, or Lizardmen as we like to call them with the Square-based community. And it's just not many people have bought tickets. You just basically you donate to the Just Giving, and you're able to get raffle tickets to win it. And I just wanted to shout it out really and say, go, and if you want to buy some Lizardmen, Seraphon, especially with the old world on the way, I think it would be a really nice way to go and do it. So I will pop links in the show description to the Just Giving and also to his channel and the video where he announces his raffle. So only a short video. It's about 3 or 4 minutes or so. He's extending the date. So if you look at the description on that video, I think it says that the competition ends on the 18th, which should be tomorrow. I think he's extending it all the way into January now. But I think only 2 people have entered so far. So there's a really good chance of winning, but also the charity needs more money than what it's got for a very, very good prize. So go and click the links, go and give his video a watch, watch these other videos as well, of course, but just, yeah, go and get involved in that competition. I keep thinking, oh, I could try and win it myself, but I think I don't need any more models to paint, but definitely don't need any more army projects. But yeah, go and check it out and try and win yourself some models. I think that's news.
Yeah.
Should we move on to what you've been up to, Dan, since we last recorded?
Well, someone, not saying who, but usually it's the person who's responsible for me taking on new hobby projects, decided that it'd be a really good idea for us to go to Warhammer World in January with Jordan and play Mordheim. And that individual has been beavering away, making warbands and a castle in Bretonia. Shall remain nameless for his crimes. But subsequently has encouraged me to do a warband of my own, which is obviously necessary to play. So I've been working on my Skaven. And in my infinite wisdom, I decided not only to, as people will be aware, start with the Underworld warbands, which were out of production, which is always helpful. But they also all come on round bases, which I can definitely testify to how much of a complete pain in the ring it is changing them back over to square. Especially those bases that are over 25 mil square. I mean, I appreciate there's going to be Mordheim purists at the second going 25 millimeter. How dare you? We're going with 25s. It's fine. We're happy. So
you could have gone with rounds, to be fair, Dan. I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah.
I've gone with 25s purely because they're models that will be in my old world armies. That's the only reason I've done it.
I thought, why not match? You know, it seems like the right thing to do. Yeah, it's been a fun couple of weeks putting those together.
Good.
There'll be photos hereabouts. I forgot how much of a complete pain that is to use. At times, it's incredibly useful because you can sand it and stuff. It's a lot more easy to use once it's sorted, like on, than green stuff. On the other hand, though, getting it smooth, if water gets anywhere near it, splits.
Yeah,
it doesn't always want to stick. And it's, so I had immense amounts of fun with that. I mean, even just cutting the round bases down and filing bits, and as you maybe I'd see in the wherever the pictures are. The Assassin Adept. I took a round base with a sort of like a concave aspect to it, where he's on top of the pipe, and I had to cut the sides off and rebuild it all, box it out with plastic card, and lots of fun.
It looks great though.
But it's done. I finished those yesterday, sprayed them up today, and then gave them a once over with a very thin coat of Vallejo Air Black through the airbrush and with a hairy brush where I needed to, because black paint isn't the same as black spray. So what I'll do is I'll work on them and I'll black stuff out, and it needs to match.
Right. Yeah.
So I always do that because life's not hard enough. But it's a way of making sure everything's clean and tidy. Because if you use like GW rattle can, it's by far the best way of undercoating. I won't convert to airbrush undercoat because it doesn't key.
No,
and it will come off in your hands. So I use the GW one, but then I need to make sure that the paint finish is the same as my other paint. So I use like thin down Vallejo Air. It gets it nice and smooth and clean. Which is a pain,
I agree with you on the rattle cans. Just to interrupt briefly for a second while we're on topic, because people might find it useful. I agree with rattle cans. I still will always use rattle cans for full priming. The only time I don't is on very, very small miniatures. So Warlords Epic stuff, I do it partly because there's people have had issues with reactions, and far too many people. That means I'm confident to spray it with a rattle can. So I tend to do those. And then the tiny bit of Epic I've done, I used, they're so small. I used, I'm using Army Painter, airbrush primer. It goes through the airbrush really well. Anyway, back to you.
yeah, so that's been the main thing I've done. I mean, to be fair, it's not been a huge amount of time, and I have got to go to work and stuff. So, but that's sorted at least, which is really good. Could try and get their basing done this week coming before Christmas, and then use the bridging week to make a really good start. I think getting them all done for New Year would be a stretch. They'll definitely be done by the time, obviously, we go to Warhammer World, but we'll see. I do still have my unit fillers, which I wanted. The two of those, I need to get those done. And ideally wanted to get those done before Old World drops, and it's looking likely that it'll be late January at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's going to happen. That's going to be touch and go. We'll see. If I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. It's good to have goals.
At least it's, I suppose, I mean, it doesn't mean those goals are any more valid than anyone else's, but because this isn't a dig at all, by the way, because you've not done units, it's not going to affect your ability to play in January. It's just it's an arbitrary goal you set yourself. Whereas if I fail to achieve my build my armies and stuff, then yeah, it will mean they're not ready to play. I can still play at home now. Well, I've done it. We'll talk about what I've done recently, but it's going to be really hard for me to get mine done. But if at least if you don't get your last 2 unit fillers done, you'll it won't affect you.
It'll be done within a week or two otherwise.
Yeah. Don't put pressure on yourself.
Something arrived, something old. I'm not going to show the front page, but judging by how old the text is on there, gives you some idea of how old this might be.
At the moment you realise you accidentally picked up a vintage copy of Razzle.
No. It'd be Escort anyway, but surely, wouldn't it?
Found it in the woods on the way from work.
Train tracks. But no, that's going to be our next episode. That's going to be the first one we do in 2024. White Dwarf. Has it changed over the years? Challenging some preconceptions that people have about White Dwarf these days, because it did have a bit of a bad period. I think we can all agree on that.
Probably more than one.
Yeah, it became a glorified catalogue for a long time, and then White Dwarf Weekly was probably a bad idea.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
The was it Images or something they called it? Warhammer
Visions.
That's the one.
Yeah. It was a period where I was buying it as well. We don't want to cover this too much because it'll be the show. But it was a period that I was when I was buying it every month, and that stopped me buying it.
Yeah. Well, the lovely chap on eBay sorted me out with that. So that arrived in the last week or so. In fact, I think I ordered it the day after we recorded last time, and I think
you did, and it arrived like the next day or something. Yeah.
Or the next day, yeah, it was really, really fast. So fair play to that. Obviously, you got really good feedback. Happy days. So that's to come. And while we're pimping something else, and I know you're going to grit your teeth over this one, talk about your Patreon. Discord. That's how we're going to start you off. Because you're too modest.
Well, no, I've been mentioning in videos. We're talking about. I did the last. I think every video since I've launched it, I've put almost like a mini mid-roll advert in there. People who watch YouTube videos, people watching this will know that not a lot of people watch to the end. And that's not just my videos. I'm sure some more than others, but people don't tend to watch. Where I would naturally talk about all that stuff is in the last 30 seconds of a video, where the percentage of people watching is a lot less than at the beginning. So I've stuck a few adverts in it. But yeah, I have a Patreon. It's not linked to this podcast because this podcast has its home on Miniature Realms, but it's mine and Dan's. This isn't just a Miniature Realms thing. So there's I won't always be going on about the Patreon, but do check out my Patreon if you are interested in supporting the channel. There are currently 5 tiers on it. There is the bottom tier is very much a thank you. It was the lowest price it let me set me at the time, which I think is $3. And I don't know why I couldn't set it to 1, but I think I can't change it now. It's kind of a basic thank you. You do get access to the full Discord, which I'll talk about a little bit in a moment. But there is a Discord that's sort of in partnership with it, but you get access to a lot more Discord channels, which is broken down by game system. So it's a lot easier to use if you want to sort of post lots of stuff and a few little, and you get to see behind the scenes stuff. You get to see a few videos early, that kind of stuff. Next Level Up is very similar, but you get your name and your credits at the end of a video. Some people like that, some people don't. And then the next 3 tiers are all kind of painting tutorial stroke coaching tuition-ish based. Level 3 is you get your own private Discord channel with me, which you can just send me questions at any time, and pictures and things, and I will give you feedback and I will give you tips and I'll send you links, etc. So we got our own little private chat thing there. Doesn't mean I won't answer people's questions if they message me. I know people message me anyway, so don't be frightened to do that. But the patrons, I will definitely prioritize them and treat that as someone's paid for that. So I will get back to them as quick as possible. Time zones, you know, dependent and all that stuff. And then the top 2 have all of that. So everything has all the stuff the previous ones have got, but they actually have some online tutorial as well, video based. So basically I'll send you a Zoom invitation and we'll sit there and we'll work on whatever you want to. So it could be talking about theory, it could be demonstrating stuff to you on camera, it could be just giving you live feedback as you're working, and the 2 levels give you more time. One's 45 minutes a month, one's 90. So there you go. That's the most I've talked about it in terms of what you get at the different levels. So it's kind of people that don't want any kind of tutorial intuition or anything like that at all. Low levels, thank you, support the channel, can do that. The higher level stuff you can do if you want to. The top 3 levels get some dice as well, some and they change each year.
They're
so
nice dice.
Year,
I've got some yellow ones.
You have, or they don't. Well, actually, but what I'm giving out there. So the yellow ones are the standard channel ones, and then let me reaches past.
Yeah, lemon sherbet, so sort of style ones I've got.
So this is going to come out really badly, and I should just put a picture. So these are your standard channel ones, which I keep getting made, and then this is, I say this year's Patreon ones. This is the 2024 because we're near the end of the year, not starting a new color in January. These kind of marble black and white with gold on. So those are the current Patreon ones, and will be all of next year as well. So if you sign up, you get a set of 10 of that. Well, not 8 of those and 2 of the other ones. You get 10 dice. And then if you're still in the following January, you'll get a new set sent to you each year. And then there'll be other bits and bobs as well. Because more people are joining, the more people I can afford to kind of do stuff for like that. I sent out a set today. Oh, sorry, they've been booked. They'll be collected tomorrow. I sent out some a couple of days ago as well, going off to Don in the US. So it's little thank yous extra and things as well. But anyway, that's a long time
there as well.
Some lovely people.
People got to ask us some questions.
Yeah, so let's talk about away from the patrons side. Discord, there is some free Discord as well.
Yeah,
I set up a number of channels that are free. There's a channel for this show. So even if you just want to ask us questions and Dan questions about the show as well, you can join the Discord and just post questions in there. He will answer you there, especially tag him in. Eventually, I'll nudge him and make him.
It's a lot faster than YouTube, I'll tell you that much. that if you get it within a week, you're doing well.
The problem I have, I like YouTube comments, and please do put comments because it actually boosts the videos. That's why people want you to write comments in YouTube, because it means if there's interaction, the video goes into other people's suggestions. That's as simple as that. Likes and comments help. But in terms of when you get to the stage of actually having a conversation and someone says, well, I'm working on these, I generally want to continue that conversation. Show me a picture. You can't post a picture in a YouTube comment. So that's what the Discord's there for.
All links.
Why not a Facebook group? Discord's easier to manage with an integration with the Patreon, if I'm honest with you. It's free to join up. The apps are free, so if you don't be scared because it's something new. There's no adverts, so you don't have, a lot of people don't like Facebook for multiple different reasons. So there's no adverts that pop up in your feed. You don't have to put all your loads of personal information on there. Discord's a lot more private. So it's a lot easier just to be about the hobby, and you can mute every single channel apart from the chat, this one, if you wanted to. So it's basic. There's like a general chat. There's a share your work in progress. There's a hobby hour, and we set one up for hobby hour questions for this Q&A, which is coming up in the second half of the show. I'm going to leave it up there afterwards. And it will become somewhere you can ask us questions at any point that we can cover on the show. So we might cover it as part of the news or something. It might be intermediate, depending if we have questions, but it's things for both of us, that rather than just things about the channel in general. So Discord, you don't have to join the Patreon. You know, it's very much if you can afford to and want to. I'm still going to be putting content out there. I'm not putting loads of stuff behind a paywall. They might get videos a little bit earlier. I've just done a review of the new XL Army Painter wet palette, which I'll talk about in a moment.
I need to watch that in the morning.
So that's that at the moment is patron only video, but I'll put that out probably Boxing Day or something like that. So it's not going to be much later, but I'll put it out early. And occasionally there will be some little extra snippets. I might just decide to record a quick video on my phone when I've got something new, and I'll pop that in the patron only feed, or pop some extra pictures in the patron only Discord as well. So there's I've got a little project channel on there for my Old Board Army stuff, and it's there to help me put some pressure on myself to do stuff, so the people in there can say, how are you getting on, have you done some more? They're due an update now, so I need to probably do that tomorrow. So you don't have to do it. There's lots of the free stuff's there, so join the free Discord, do that alone. That would be really cool to have more people on there chatting, and there's a lot of you subscribe to the channel, and show us your hobby, and that's a great way to do it. Anyway, moving on from that, Army Painter wet palette. I've used a wet palette for years. You have as well, haven't you, Dan?
Yeah.
Red Grass Games?
I've got the Mark 1 Red Grass Excel.
That's what I've been using beforehand. It's great. Nothing wrong with it at all. So I'm not changed because there's something wrong with it. Obviously, if you watch my channel aside from this, you'll know that I use a lot of contrast style paints now.
I can't imagine it's good for this.
Well, it depends on the application. So if I'm making a small glaze, I will use the wet palette because it's perfect. If I'm using it neat, or just want to if I'm using it neat, I tend to use it out of the pot unless it's an express color or a speed paint. Well, I can't because it's a dropper bottle. So you need stuff with reservoirs. So this XL, Army Painter tray has a second layer with lots and lots of reservoirs. It's got space for your paintbrushes as well, which I'm not going to be using, but all these different reservoirs. Now you can use those little stress popper things that people are using. Yeah, I had one of those. So I just needed more, basically. When I'm on a long painting session, I need something sometimes that maybe 10 or so colors. And I also like
scale intensity. That's what that is in there.
It stains it, doesn't it? So what I do with it, which I wish I did I ruined one of those by not doing this, is I use wet wipes. So as soon as I finish with it, straight away when it's still wet, wipe it out. And it's a really, really good way of doing it. Not great, not the best for the environment, but yeah, that's what I do. So I wanted something that I could put contrast paint in, but also because it's part of the stack, comes with a lid. It's not going to keep it wet the same way as the wet palette does. But if I go to lunch and I put the lid on it, when I come back, it's probably still going to be usable. And it'll just help me with the way I work. And I was a bit concerned about the actual wet palette part of it, because I heard that the original one of them dried out. Well, I've been using it for a week now. It's fine. It's really good. If anything, I prefer their paper. It's a little bit smoother, Dan. I don't know if you found the Red Grass Games one can, after a little while, can sometimes tear quite easy. Depends how much water you use, and that varies from user to user. I find
if my spatial awareness isn't too good, I can stab through it with a dropper bottle if I'm being a bit heavy-handed.
I thought it was going to be a little bit. It's only a week, but the finish of the Army Painter one feels a little bit smoother, a little bit silkier. It's really nice, and I thought, oh, this might dry out. It is absolutely the same, other than that, in its performance. And no wetter, no dry, and it doesn't have a rubber seal. I'm giving away the whole review video, really. But go and watch the video. If you're a patron, watch the video if you haven't already. If you're not a patron, you'll be able to watch it in a week or so. It's only a 10-minute video, but it's really good, and it's 30 quid. So if you're looking, if you don't have
65 for that,
those a lot, If you don't have one already, I would say definitely get this Army Painter one, because the performance is no different to that one.
I think if I hadn't got that as a present, I'd have probably ended up with an Army Painter one, if I'm honest with you.
I heard bad things about the original Army Painter one. Now I don't, because people said, it dries out because it doesn't have a seal.
Got it. Yeah, there's something people trim on it, and it suddenly makes it better.
Okay, well this doesn't have a seal either, but you got the layer, and I don't know. When I pushed it on, and you'll see on the video, when you lift it up, you can flick it and then the bottom falls out, whereas when I first got the Red Grass Games one, it was a real nightmare just to take the lid off sometimes.
Have to use the edge of my thumbnail occasionally,
which is not a bad thing either, by the way. But it's the Army Painter one seals enough for me, as someone who paints nearly every day of the week. Whereas if you're a once a week painter, I personally don't think wet pallets are
No,
designed for that anyway. Some
it
people,
doesn't
this is
last that
part of the
long.
criticism of, no, I'll come back a week later and it's moldy. Well, no. But for someone that works every day, the army paint one's great.
It's hot weather as well. It's painting in the heat that's made the biggest difference to me with a wet palette. As long as I keep a bottle of distilled water and I just top it up as I go.
I don't use distilled,
like an
but
Evian cap.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't use distilled
helps
water. If it starts getting moldy, I just change the sponge over. I probably should use it, but it's just easier. But I use an old Vallejo airbrush cleaner bottle that I've scraped the label off, a little squirty bottle. I've always got it. It's just tap water, and I just, like you, keep the moisture levels up,
the corner
top
back
it up,
and just
Oh, something that again, if you've used the red grass one, the paper doesn't fit right to the edge, does it?
No.
It does on the army paint one. If anything, it's kind of
in some ways though I prefer that it doesn't, because it can fold back up, and what I do is I wet my finger and run it right around the edge, and it makes it stay flat. And because you've got that little bit of foam, it helps.
So what I do is, I place it down on the wet sponge. This is lovely, non-visible stuff for people, especially if you don't know what wet palette. I place it down, peel it off immediately, and stick it back the other way.
Okay.
So it stops it curling up, and then I take a bit of clean paper towel and just wipe off any excess.
Yeah.
But I don't, it's much like other things. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way.
No.
Too much to set up your wet palette. You set it up the way. Some people like it really wet. Some people like it just slightly moist in order just to get that paint a little bit of life. I'm somewhere in the middle. But again, it depends on what I'm going to do.
I can literally see water around the edges.
Yeah, I think mine are like that to start with, but a little bit. But yeah, it varies. But
I don't know what's in here at the moment. Actually, this is bad television. But no, it's. I mean, God, there we go. Live example of how bad this thing's getting into.
This is a good thing, not a bad. I love, but don't get me wrong though. I'd recommend the red grass gains one as well, especially if you don't want the wells.
Still wet.
Yeah.
How much you can see, it's all still wet.
Yeah. That's I use mine.
In fact, it's just leaked on my desk. that's great. But see, it does work, and I've not used that for a week, probably 2. So they are worth the money. Admittedly, any metallics on there are getting used because they're absolutely going to be wrecked by now. But
give them a go. They just help keep it. Even if, for me, the main goal for them always is not to keep paint alive for weeks. It's just to keep paint alive during that painting session. Whereas you put something on a tile, it's drying out on there so quickly. So that's why
more than doubles your time. Way
more than that. I think it probably adds 5 or 6 times to your so I don't see it as an issue, and that's why I use one, not because I want to come back and use the same paint the next day, because it's not quite right the next day. You could sometimes add a bit of water and use it, but my method would be to keep it right in that painting session. And yes, you can make one yourself out of Tupperware. I'll talk about this in the video a little bit as well. I use this for work. I use it every day. I quite like nice things, and that £30, the investment with all the little wells in it and stuff as well, perfect for me. Yes, there's nothing wrong with using Tupperware and buying one of those little kids pop things that you can get in a pound shop as well. That's cool as well. If you don't, it is not, there's no debate on it. I don't like the kind of, there's some tongue-in-cheek kind of, they go moldy thing, but some people get so angry about, horrible. Well, it's not for you then, is it? But give it a go. It just extends the life of your paint. You don't have to buy these big ones either. You could buy the smaller ones. I think the small army painter one is probably going to be about under £20 now, which is probably going to be less than buying a nice, good quality, thin bit of Tupperware. You can get cheap stuff, but to get the one that's not really high banked, so when you're not dipping your brush over into it, you want it at a low kind of level. So to get yourself the right shape of Tupperware, rather than just using anything, you don't need an inch thick of foam either. You actually want
sometimes expensive as it is.
Yeah, you want those sponge cloths if you're going to make one yourself, don't you? They're slightly spongy dishcloths, thicker than a J cloth, not that blue cloth stuff. What a weird random. This has turned into a long chat about wet palettes, but use that stuff, and then you got to get the right parchment paper as well, which isn't cheap. You can use baking paper, but it's not quite as good. So then you're buying yourself the inserts anyway. Most of these, when you buy them new, they come with a full set, and this came with 50. 50 will last me 50 will last me ages. You know, it's going to last me.
Got mine just before COVID. This XL, it was bought for me as a present again, and I only had to replace the sheets, I think, at the beginning of this year.
Yeah,
it's 50 sheets. So it lasted me for ages, and they weren't expensive to buy new sheets.
I've not long bought a pack
quid.
of sheets, so providing my test with my XL keeps going, my XL Army Painter one, the Wargamers edition, as it goes on well, I'll when we meet up in Jan, I'll try and remember to bring you my pack, because you can make, if you're still using your Red Grass Games one, you can have the sheets.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm not going to use them because I've got Army Painter that one now. It's looking like I'm going to keep using at the moment. The tests after a week looks like I'll keep using that one.
Well, that's me good till about 2027 then, because I think I'm about 4 sheets into the new pack now.
I reuse them as well. I don't know about you. So if I finish with a paint and it's fairly new, you can wipe them off and put another paint on it. But anyway, probably should stop talking about wet palettes now.
It's another subject.
Yeah, Tiny Space Marines. People have probably seen those videos. It's been quite fun painting all those Legions Imperialis. I still haven't made my mind up what to do.
Alpha Legion were my favorite.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, thinking about it. Alpha Legion's definitely there. They're nice miniatures. I enjoyed doing them. Those videos took so much longer than I expected to produce. The actual individual painting of each miniature is really short, but because the way I filmed it, I was doing each Legion in order for each video, but then because I wanted to make use of paint in my airbrush, would mean that I'm recording bits out of order. So when you go back to edit it, you're having to move, you're not chronological in all your clips on your thing. And it's still the better way of doing it rather than wasting paint and cleaning the airbrush. But it just took me, the actual painting was probably 20% of it, but the actual editing it all together just took absolutely ages. But they're fun videos to do. They seem to be going down quite well. And I will make my mind up. And then I'll be doing some more videos on it. But probably when I do, I'm not going to come back. I'll say it now. I'm not going to do a all 18 Legions tanks video. There's other stuff out there. Look at the Cult of Paint ones, use my infantry ones and extrapolate out from that, which you can do. And I'll pick a Legion and I'll do some details on that, probably sticking with the same paints, but probably more airbrushing in terms of application. And then I will show off some of the kind of the stuff you've seen on the Flames of War videos, to be honest with you, that kind of the weathering techniques and things that I use. I will do that, but they've been good fun. I've got this to review. So the guys at Enviro Games sent me this starter.
Novus Malum.
Yeah, so it's something new. They're you can tell by the name, environmentally focused. So there's a lot of ways of reducing carbon footprint in producing this game, which I found quite interesting, because it's something that's part of a hobby. It's not something that we're brilliant with. I've already talked about using wet wipes to clean things, but I will try and do a quick unboxing. They're lovely guys there, and I've said to them I'm really pressed with time. Normally I'd like to do paint up half the models or something for a review, but they sent me this for free. So go and check it out anyway. Go and Google them. I will do a short unboxing of it, talk you through it in a video which will come out over the Christmas period. Look quite interesting. Fun little skirmish game, a fantasy game. It's a tough market for that kind of stuff, but I'll do a little video on it. I like what I've seen, but I'm not going to talk any more about it now because I don't know until I've really delved into it. What else have I got? I've been carrying on with my Old World project. Apart from my Grail Reliquary conversion, I have now built and prepped all the remaining stuff I had. That includes kind of cleaning up all the extra eBay rescues, a unit of 15 knights, which is just horses and bodies and legs, because they're there waiting for the foot knight plastic kit to come out so I can build some Grail Knights from them as well. I might even try and pick up an extra few knights and do some questing knights as well for a fun project. But because I think that kit will make both from, I think that's what they've done. Genuinely think that they thought, well, we've only got the budget to do one plastic unit. So we bring out these foot knights, we get a new unit, and we've got all these extra bits that people can build their Grail and their questing knights from. I don't know if that's their goal, and I don't know if they all say that at some point. Be fun if they did, but that's what I'm planning on doing with it. But I've built everything. It's primed. I need to go and zenithal those units now, so I can just then pick bits at a time. Do I think I'm going to get it done by the goal of the end of January? Oh, no, probably not. I'm concerned. But I will do as much as I can, but at least with it all built, if I want to play a game at home with Jacob, I don't mind playing unpainted at home on my table. And the final thing, I forgot to mention this last recording, but I just got back. I took Jacob to Warhammer World for one of his birthday treats. We wanted to go up there. We stay at night before in a hotel. We took him there for a few hours. And it happened to be day 2 of Middle-earth Throne of Skulls. And it was just pure coincidence. It's a week after his birthday. So we went up and he spent some birthday money and bought himself a giant for his orcs and goblins army. And I love that question, because you're buying it and the staff there, and like, oh, this is for you, brilliant. What have you bought that for? And he's a bit shy, and I said, he's bought it for his orcs and goblin army, square based, and he's been playing 6th edition this year. You can see him going, oh, you're one of those dads, but won't let him play the new stuff. But he had a fantastic time. He was it's so nice seeing how excited he was walking through the museum. He's been there before, but really getting excited and looking at all those miniatures and things. He painted a Stormcast when he was there. The staff are just lovely, looked after him. But we had lunch there as well, and people came over to say I bumped into Damien, which was great. Damien, at this point, for those of you, I might try and remember to put a picture of what Damien was wearing at this point.
I shall send you a message now to remind you.
And this Jacob obviously doesn't know who Damien is, and probably trying to work out why someone was at Warhammer World dressed in a cloud suit with the sun face and head. But it was nice to very briefly chat to him. I didn't get a chance to go back and speak to him and have a longer conversation with him. So every time I was free, I think he was mid-game or something.
The comments, because obviously GW put out an event review on the community. Incidentally, they always do it when I'm not there. So, and when I've not got any glass. So, cheers, guys. But obviously, he's there because he won it, and he's in the full regalia and everything. And normally, the community can be a little bit spiteful if it wants to be. I mean, there's some lovely people, and especially on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, people can sometimes be a little bit caustic. Yeah. All the comments were really lovely. I mean, it was really nice.
I haven't read any. I've read the article. I didn't read any of the comments.
It was great. Brilliant. They all thought he was mental, and I don't think they're wrong. But
he is. He is.
But it's a special kind of mental.
Yeah, and he does it. He does it all the time, and he's given an awful lot to the community over the years. And yeah, he always does something fun, and he is a lovely, lovely chap, and that's partly why he keeps winning things, because he's such a lovely chap. People giving lots of sports scores, and it is. And I've said it before. It's my favourite event I've ever done was the Throne of Skulls, and that format is my favourite for wargaming, and that's not knocking others either. We all have our thing, but for me, I love that idea of just quite a relaxed weekend. You are trying to win games, but also putting effort into your army and putting effort into being friendly, and then having good, nice, collegiate experience with people, and you get rewarded for that as well. I just love Throne of Skulls makeup. I've never done it for any of the other systems, and hopefully, if they do one in the future for the old world, I get to go to it, because I'd love to do that. But it was lovely to briefly meet it. I've spoken to Damien for hours and hours recording podcasts. I've stood next to him when I went to Throne of Skulls, when I was nominated for the group photo, but we didn't talk at that point because I hadn't been introduced to him, and we've not met in person. We just missed each other at events and things, but we've spoken loads online and loads. He's been on not this show. He's been on at the Frying Pan a couple of times, things. So that was really nice to meet him. And then Michael Haskell came over and chatted, come and introduced himself. And again, someone else I've spoken to quite a lot and had not met in person. And he came over and he was brilliant. Everyone I spoke to on the day was lovely with Jacob. So he came over and chatted to us for a few minutes, which was lovely at lunchtime. And then when Jacob was painting, Dan Entwistle came over and introduced himself as well, which was really, really lovely. Again, so we just had a brief chat, and I was trying to help Jacob paint his Stormcast at the same time, and but it was just nice. Everyone came up and said hello. It was, as I say, it's a coincidence that it was a Middle-earth event on at that point, and one that I would have been desperate to get tickets to a year or two or so ago, which just time didn't work and things have changed a little bit. But anyway, I just didn't mention it in the last show, and I got to the end of the recording and thought, oh, we should have mentioned it. But I think that's it. We've rambled. I've been listening to, last thing, I've never read the End Times books. I'm on number 3 now. They're okay. They're not the best. Some of the authors have written much better stuff, but they're not poor either. And I'm quite enjoying experiencing them. At the time, I'd already kind of moved away from fantasy. I was playing a lot of War Machine by the time the End Times came around. So I missed it. And it's a shame because I think they did a good job of it by all accounts, aside from the game not being around at the end of it. I think it did well. There was the effort they put into it really enthused people, and then I'm enjoying
some of the models
the
from that
stories.
time were really good as well.
The whole package at the time,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, the Glotkin was I just finished the Fall of Altdorf, and the Glotkin was quite a big part of that, and it's good. It's really nice to see some of those characters. I'm almost kind of seeing the end before we go back to a couple of 100 years beforehand, which is quite very, very soon.
Yeah,
so I'm going to try and get through them all before. Well, I don't know where launch is going to be, but I'm guessing I'll get through them all naturally anyway before then, because I devour books fairly quickly while I'm working. I think there's only 5. So,
yeah, I'm rereading the Elf trilogy.
Oh, the
original Times of Legend ones. Yeah, I've almost finished the first, which means I get to move on to arguably one of my favorite Black Library books of all time, Shadow King, which was amazing.
I haven't read them, and I need to, because I love the Empire trilogy, Graham McNeil's.
I was going to take them back to a charity shop, so if I remember, I'll bring them in January.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Thank you. That would be. I love the Elves. I got rid of a lot of my Warhammer books. Some I regret now. I had the Dwarf trilogy and stuff as well, the omnibus editions.
The
but I did keep
Grudgebringer, and
that's it.
The Nick Kine ones. They're both all really good. The War of the Beard was good as well.
They were good. I had a few that I think one of the questions will bring us back to this kind of conversation.
Let's not cut this off too much.
Let's leave it. But anyway, I'm just enjoying them, and I'm looking for. So I suppose we haven't mentioned Lords of the Lance, have we?
Yeah, obviously. Well,
we didn't talk about that.
For me to cut across you for that, you've already put the short out.
Yeah. Well, it's if you hadn't noticed, there was I call it a leak. It's still up on the French website. That basically it's not even a pre-order. I don't think you can pre-order it.
Publication date.
It's a publication date for a book by Graham McNeil set in the old world called Lords of the Lance, and I'm pretty sure it said Lords of the Dance on my
yes,
on my shirt.
I pointed that out to you really quickly.
So yeah, I think all the way through it's saying, don't say Lords of the Dance, don't say the Lords of the Dance, which of course I said Lords of the Dance. That's cool. I'm really excited that there's going to be a novel, whether it's a little one of those novellas, or looking at the price, I think the €20 11.99 price is for the EPUB, which suggests that the actual print version might be a bit too much to be a novella. I might be wrong.
Well, it depends if they do it as the like the Primark novels, where it's a hardback, and they're usually about 15-16 quid.
Right. Okay.
But they're only about 180 pages.
It's a big novella then. It's somewhere that's almost short. It's difficult, isn't it? Short book novella. I don't know what the official number page is. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm excited that they've produced some fiction. I hope that means there's more. And I'm excited that it's Graham McNeil, because he's one of the authors I would trust a lot more over some of the others. And I'm not going to trash any authors on any public forum, because it doesn't need to be done. But he's someone I really
still responsible for one of my best books ever, Storm of Iron.
Yeah, well, as mentioned, the Empire Time and Legend stuff, that's him. And I love his Heresy stuff as well. So big fan of Graham McNeil and interested in that.
Was it Defenders of Ulthuan and Sons of Illyrian? The two best high elf books ever written, with the exception of Shadow King.
Interesting. Well, when that comes out, maybe we'll have a read. Maybe invite Jordan on, and maybe we can do it'd be spoilerific, but maybe we can all review the book or something and do a little.
Or we can have an argument about what the best elf book is.
Oh dear. Right. Anyway, now we really will go for a break, and we'll come back and do the Q&A. Welcome back, and we're here for a bit of a Q&A. These are always fun. We used to do these on out of the frying pan, didn't we, Dan? It's that kind of end of the year show, can't think of a topic, or let's not bother trying to think of a topic. Let's get people to ask us questions, and it's always good fun to answer people's questions and get people involved as well. So we put a little bit of a call out, and we've got questions from Discord, from Instagram, from Facebook, from Twitter. I've got one from Twitter because I only remembered to actually post it on Twitter today, which is a little bit late. And then you've had a couple sent to you personally as well.
Yeah.
Dan has spent a lot of time retyping out or copy and pasting, I don't know how he did it, but all of the questions, whereas I just loaded it into the document as screenshots. So we're not using that. Dan's spent time putting your questions together. What that will mean is that sometimes I will be thinking, who's that person? Because I won't recognize your avatar and stuff. But so forgiveness if I don't remember. Most of the people I know who they are from their names. Sometimes it's the name.
We'll go by screen handle if need be.
Well, Dan is going to ask the questions anyway. I'm going to hand over to Dan because he's put this together. He can ask the questions. We're both going to answer them, not just me. That would be really bad. But Dan's going to be doing the asking. So over to you, Dan.
I'm Quizmaster. So what is your chosen subject?
Our chosen subject is us, isn't it, today?
How conceited. Right, just put this out there before we start. One, thanks for everyone for putting it in there. We did have a couple of repeats. So what we've done is if you put more than one in and one person only asked one, we're going to read out in their name, but you know who you are. So let's start with Discord. You know, I think these are individuals who joined us on there, so we'll give them preference. So the first of all is Lord Inquisitor Ignis. So I don't actually know who this individual is, but hello, thank you for joining us. What armies are you most looking forward to when Old World returns?
I think, without going to a massive diatribe on it, I wouldn't have picked Tomb Kings or Bretonnians if I had a choice of all of them to start with. I'm really excited about them because they're going to have new things and they're part of the launch, and I'm enjoying doing those things. Brett's especially because I had a failed project before towards the end of it. It's one of the last armies I had that I bought and never painted and never did. So I've always liked them, but Empire, the Dwarves are always my things. And my plan is to finish these quite quickly and then start building Empire. And then in the future, I will do some dwarves, but my goal for this year will be to finish these armies that you've seen on the videos, finish them off. I'm not going to go back and add loads, I'll buy the new bits, finish them off, and then I will go and start working on a bigger Empire project. So those two. What about you, Dan?
I think if we cut it down to supported armies, which I think is probably the intent of the question, Slaves to Darkness or Chaos Warriors they've always got a bit of an appeal. I do quite like them. Be interested to see what they do with them. Obviously, the new armies are getting new models. I'd really love to see what they're going to take on that as the build up to the Siege of Prague, Magnus the Pious. Obviously, it's before that. What could that mean? Is it going to be one of the name characters that we know exists in the lore? That there's an awful lot of questions about that. And High Elves, because I love High Elves. Most of them are as old as forever, so there's a good reason to expect Tyrion, Teclis, Anarion, etc. to be around.
That's a good point.
Because they're immortal elves, so which means Malak is going to be about. Obviously, it depends. I can't remember the timeline whether some of them have been bound yet. Trying to hold the great hold chaos back. I think the Sundering's already happened, isn't it? So yeah, well, of course it will have. Yeah, of course it will have, because the War of the Beard's been done as well. But yeah, High Elves. I'm interested in the model potential, especially because an awful lot of the models that are actually still either being released now, as they were for bits and pieces, or late on in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, they were beautiful. You know, the Phoenix Guard were stunning. The White Lions, the White Lion Chariot. Yeah, all of that stuff was really good. Even the stuff out of Island of Blood.
That's some of the best stuff, and we've probably talked about this before, but that's going to be difficult.
Sea Guard, cool,
because there's a shared frame there, isn't there, between some Skaven and some. So
they could retool.
They could. It's whether they think it's worth it to have the better models, or they just. Who knows? That's a big debate. We probably don't want to get into now.
Skaven aren't a supported army, so they're going to have to if they want to use the models.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely chaos, and obviously there is a little part of me that's always loves Beastman. As much as there's another part of me that's deeply scarred for having to paint a lot of it very quickly for the shop when I used to work there. I could paint a lot more brown now. I think I'd be more happy. And I do love Beastman. I mean, I've got the 40k ones out there still to be painted. They're on the list. But I mean, to be fair,
So the answer is quite a lot of them.
Yeah, all of them. All of them in their own ways. I mean, I love Fantasy Battle.
Mm.
The only armies I was never really that bothered about were Lizardmen, which has dramatically changed now the new models are out because they're stunning.
Yes.
And I was never particularly bothered by Ogre Kingdoms, and that remains. And I don't think they're supported anyway. So
no, they're not one of the current things.
No.
But yeah, I suppose, yeah, and to add to that, I'm going to be excited about every release that comes out, and I will cover it in one way or another on the channel. I won't be doing army painting videos on all of them. But I will pick up new models probably for painting stuff, because that's smart YouTubing, and I'll enjoy doing it at the same time. I won't be doing whole armies.
Yeah, I mean, if they do resins for each one, there's, and that's without even thinking about if they actually decide to do new armies. I mean, imagine if, because I mean, I know that there's an awful lot of chat about this. They use a lot of the Total War imagery when they first started talking about Old World.
Yeah.
What if they do Kislev and Cathay? What if they actually do it?
It's possible.
You'll be able to hear my excitement from the moon if they do Cathay.
I'm not that excited about it. I never have been about Cathay. I'm sure it will be stunning, and I will be excited if they announced it because the models will look good. And who knows, I might completely change my mind right now.
But the renders are just beautiful.
They are, yeah. It is good, but it's just an aesthetic that it's never kind of excited me to the point of I want that to be my army. I can't see past the Empire or Dwarves or something like that. But the miniatures, it might look so amazing as a presentation, and we saw this with Middle Earth a little bit with the Iron Hills. So this is a really good kind of comparison of how the game might work a little bit, or how there's comparisons between them. So you have Lord of the Rings era rather than Hobbit. You have old plastic miniatures, old metal miniatures with some new resin and plastic heroes to the Rangers, which is very much similar to the business model we can see in that Tomb King's army box we talked about earlier when they brought out the Iron Hills Dwarves. That's a completely resin only, expensive as well, to be honest, resin only army that looks stunning. But if someone told me about its concept, I'd have said cool, but I quite like the other dwarves as well. But when they brought it out, I had to buy it. So
what got me.
Yes, it was, and you've got a beautiful.
It's my first MSBG army, which a lot of people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did that." But it's like £500 or £600, but I've been playing Heresy. It's like £2,000 for years, so it's relative. I think I might balk at the amount of models that might be needed for a 3,000 point potentially, if it is going to be 2,500, 3,000 points worth of old world in resin. That might upset me a little bit. That's going to be a lot of models.
And we don't know it would be.
If points transferred over from where they were sort of 8th edition, trying to put an army of that scale together out of, potentially where you're paying, what, 60 quid for 10? Yeah, that'd suck.
It would. It really, really would. Right. I think we're going to have to move these along because otherwise this will be a 6-hour show.
We'll fall asleep by then. Okay, so same person, Lord Inquisitor Ignis. Oh, and how did the two of you get into the hobby? What edition? And what were our first armies? Not a small question.
Yeah, I will try and do a really, really quick one because this potentially could be silly. I've talked about it a lot as well, probably on videos on the channel.
Yeah.
But Hero Quest, I was the Hero Quest route, played it, next door neighbor, a year older than me, didn't really know him. He had lots of Warhammer stuff as well. I went to buy a magazine. I bought White Dwarf. It had miniatures I recognized, had Advanced Hero Quest in it, I think, and I made the connections, got it home, realized there was this whole world connected Citadel Miniatures logos and Games Workshop logos from the Hero Quest stuff with this wider hobby. Realized that I'd seen it in my hobby shop, which was a Toy Master toy shop that had a upstairs with models and things. Realized I'd seen it with all those funny role-play models and stuff. The discovery was there, and then from them, sort of as a I think it was probably 11, 12 at that point, but then into my teenage playing those. So first proper war game would have been 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy, but I played everything else in that era till I went to uni in 1996, and then came back to gaming after that, after a bit of a break, getting chasing after girls, drinking too much, and then I found my wife and became a nerd again. That's a succinct version. You, Dan?
Well, I was 8 years old, so this is 93. Sorry.
I was playing then, but I was a little bit older than you.
Yep. Yeah. So it was sort of car boot saley bits. It's the point where 2nd edition 40k came out, but technically my first rulebook was Rogue Trader.
Yep.
It was the first one I owned physically. My first models were some Space Marines. They were Dark Angels and they were black. As before Dark Angels went green. So yeah, it was around that time. It was I owned a 1st edition rulebook. I think the first game I actually played was a game of 2nd edition in local GW Peterborough. And to be fair, I stayed with 40k for a little while, and then Fantasy came a little bit later, and then they started getting all the extra games and stuff. Necromunda was a big one as well, because I went to secondary in '96, and it was Necromunda was already a thing, and there was White Dwarf in the library, and Necromunda kind of caught my attention. I mean, it was covered in chevrons and stuff for a start, so it's easy, isn't it? But those are cool models, and yeah, it all spiraled from there, really. But yeah, Dark Angels, Space Marines were my first army.
That's the part of the question I didn't answer, wasn't it? Or was what was my first army? I think the first army wasn't a proper army. I was playing mixed fantasy armies, and my first box of miniatures, aside from HeroQuest, was the Regiments box set, when you got 10 elves, 10 dwarves, and 10 dark elves, 10 orcs, 10 goblins, 10 skavens. You had all of that, and I basically had the good third against the bad lot, and that was the first. They weren't proper armies at that stage. Anyway, I won't go into that because that's another rabbit hole.
So once again, he sent us a few. So also, what mini from the old range do you want back the most?
I genuinely don't have an answer for this. I could have searched the internet today, and I did look at this and found something, and you ask me again in a year's time, I'll pick something else. I'm not one of those people that had my favorite ever mini. I've had a few things I enjoyed. So if I have to force to say something, I had the old metal and White Dwarf miniature, which I don't have anymore, and I'd love that to have that back now to paint it. But I'm not saying that's my favorite ever, because there'll be so many things I've forgotten, and I'd see it again and go, oh no, that one, and then oh no, that one, oh, I mean that one. It's so much I'd love to have. But yeah, if that was still knocking around, I'd have fun painting that. You?
It's a bit chariot related, because Grom the Paunch is up there, Gorthor Halfhorn. I still like the original classic Archaon on the horse. Still cool, although that much metal. But there's a whole bunch of miniatures. To be honest, it's some of the classic warrior priests. Well, not classic, not the old ones. They're ones they did around 5th, I would say, around 5th, 6th.
Yeah.
One in particular with he's got the scarification of the twin tail comet, and he's carrying a double-handed hammer. Yeah, really cool model.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah,
I used to have one. I got, but wicked. Oh god, there's so many, as you say.
It's just too much.
But there's also nostalgia. I'm sure if you get hold of them, you're like, oh, maybe not.
It's a balance. Yeah. Some of them I'd probably like to own and not paint now. Got to that stage where you keep it as a thing.
Malice Darkblade on Spite. That's the model I'd want.
Okay.
Above all others, because that model was cool. I remember painting it for the shop when it came out. That was cool. I wasn't even staffed. They let me paint it for them. It was awesome. So, who are our guys, us guys, hobby heroes?
It's a difficult one. And I think they've fallen into so many different categories. I'll give you some examples, but I'm not sure I have a definitive thing. You can obviously go after rules writers for your favorite games. So I definitely grew up in that era of Rick Priestley and Andy Chambers and Jervis Johnson writing all the games that I loved the most, and I still have that. And you'd have noticed that already had that connection with that era. So some of that is nostalgia based. Do they become heroes? Yes, I suppose by some kind of nostalgic thing, or do they deserve that over people from later rule books? Not necessarily. They're not as visible now, so it's hard to compare. People, I talked about Damien earlier. That's, you know, someone that genuinely does something that puts a lot into the community. So that's a hero of a different sort. So Damien, who you don't, people that don't
I
follow the
think he
Middle
actually
Earth
won a community
community,
hero
he
award,
did,
didn't
he did, yeah.
he?
So
Yeah.
he is officially a hobby hero, but and deserves. So throughout the years where that game wasn't really supported, a bit like the dark days of fantasy, I suppose we're coming out of now, but that game was kind of on the back burner for a very long time with a dormant license, etc., etc. He kept doing a YouTube channel with some other people on there as well. It wasn't just him, but he's done so much. He still does a channel now. He's always put out there in terms of content for other people and videos, up there running forums and groups and the Facebook group and things. So running events, being loud in the community, but being nice and respectful with it as well. And so people like that do a lot. As an example, there are other people. It could be forever listing my favorite people from the community. And there's loads from all the different games I've played, so I could pick names from different things. But so there's a couple of examples, but it's hard for me to sort of pick out individual people. There's so many painters I love, but I can list a million painters I respect and love. So it's really hard.
Yeah, I think there's a few people for me who embody the best aspects of what this hobby can be, because as much as sometimes as a community we focus on potentially what some of the more negative aspects of those might be, there are some people out there who completely unselfishly and steadfastly remain positive and try and bring something positive to other people's experience of the game, whether that's an online interaction if you play them at an event. There's an awful lot of very generous people, you know, they'll send you bits if you're looking for something, and there's
Yeah.
all sorts of wonderful people like that. You know, I think it's fair to say, like you said, that there's people who from the golden house of halcyon days of rules writing who could be considered heroes, like Thomas Pirinen. He's up there, Andy Chambers, but there's been so many, like even Paul Sawyer. His
Yeah.
contribution to White Dwarf, he can be considered a hobby hero. His White Scars was something I followed throughout his entire thing, and yeah, but I think, to be honest, I think I was going to name it. It'd be people from the community as it exists now. So people like Damien, as sycophantic as that might sound. I mean, I've been mean to him plenty in real life, so it evens out. But you know, people like him, Chris Murphy, Dan Entwistle, my mate Jamie Harcourt Billam, he works on the events team with Ed Barfield and co now, and they're all hobby heroes because they put so much time and love and energy in it. And the amount of people who've been very positive about what they've done in the last sort of year or two that they've been running it, they're heroes because they're directly contributing to positivity in the community. But
it's really hard, isn't it? Because
yeah,
I've given an example, and I feel bad that I've not given more. But then I also know that could just be an endless. You can
it
almost make a whole
spirals.
and a whole show out of it, and then it's like there'll be people that aren't confident enough to do something across
Yeah,
the community that they notice that are a little bit more unsung hero, and it's really really hard. So people that are
I'll tell you what,
genuinely positive,
if I
who
had to
help
name it,
other people in the sorry.
Matt Davies. If I had to name anyone, if I had to say someone, it'd be Matt Davies. He's a hobby hero
It's
for
a
me
very
because
very
that
nice
bloke
man.
is yeah. I mean, he's that nice. He should almost be suspicious. If I'm honest, he is an utterly lovely gentleman. He will give his time up for anyone. He will happily help anyone with anything. He's helped me out plenty of times, and he never wants anything in return other than for people to enjoy themselves and be happy. And what more can be said than that? And he does crack in hobby as well.
Yeah.
He does
Generation
brilliant
Shift
hobby.
resin
Yeah,
bases. If you it's one way to find him on social media and things as well. And he does, yeah, he does do cracking hobby. He's a lovely, lovely man. So he's just there's so many. And if you'd sit there, we could have a discussion about this for hours and go, oh, we could have
yeah,
mentioned this person, could have mentioned this person. It's a little bit of an awkward one, really.
yeah.
So
But if I had to say someone, it'd be him. I think that's fair, at least for me.
yep.
So, if you had been forcibly abducted into the Warhammer Fantasy world, what time period and where? Stars, nope, no.
Yeah, I
I'd
think
say pre-Sundering Ulf one, and keep my
mm,
head down.
yeah, it's it's no Middle Earth, is it? So that you can't kind of pick nice periods where and having a bit of an idyllic life. It's always going to be tough. So yeah,
It'd
yeah,
be with the elves before the Sundering and before they start kicking off at the dwarves.
Yeah, I'd still love to explore the Empire, but maybe during the timeline we're about to enter, there's always going to be some big thing going on, but I don't think it gets
Mostly
any
poverty,
safer.
mate.
Or yeah,
You could with turnips.
yeah, I quite like that thing, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
none of
going
it's
with.
good. I think it's like 40k and stuff. It's like, when people say, "Oh, would you like to go and join the universe of something you really enjoy?" But no, not 40k. Thank you very much. If you could have any weapon from the old world, such as Tyrion or Felix's sword, what would you have?
I quite like Felix's sword, actually. I quite like that it's gives
Because his
him extra
dragon Templar
strength,
blade, wasn't it?
and yeah, but I like the way he kind of doesn't realize that it's kind of straight up, but doesn't always realize the connection it has with him, and it's giving him strength and giving him courage as well. So he's feeling courage that he wouldn't normally feel. Like I really like Felix's character's frailty and honestness, and the fact that he's not squeaky clean, but ultimately he's a good man, and it takes him, develops over time, that he realizes he's a hero far before he realizes it, and I quite like that.
Yeah,
But I
it's
like the
the
fact that
Ulrika
he's not,
arc that
yeah, but he's not a
puts that in.
glittering hero that's kind of unbelievable. It's very real. I really enjoy that kind of style and period of writing. So yeah, maybe Felix's sword, actually, because
Yeah,
if I was going to be a hero, I'd probably rather be that kind of hero than the kind of almost comic book, no depth to them. Because I've definitely got my frailties and my darker side. So, and let's be a bit more realistic with it. So we'll say Felix's sword.
so it's interesting actually because he mentions Tyrion and the
You're going to
Sword
say
of Cain
Tyrion's
is
sword.
up there. Sword of Cain is up there. Slayer of Kings again is up there. Yeah, it's hard to say, but the Sword of Cain is one of those iconic, cool bits of kit that's kicking about. I do quite like it. I did give this some thought. Obviously, there's the Heldenhammer's hammer. You've got various dwarf bits of kit all over the place. Although there is something Ditto's Double Doing Doodars, which is a magical weapon from the Orc and Goblin book, which I really love. Although not on the receiving end when it's Gork's Warpath.
No, no.
But
Well, you were just going to
well,
say a
there's
dispel
so much
scroll.
cool stuff.
I'll have a dispel scroll.
No good against irresistible force, mate.
Yeah.
So that is the end of the questions for Lord of Christopher Ignis. And the other one we had was, again, a couple of questions from Wrath and Ruin. What made you want to start the hobby out?
I think it's the same for both of us. I think is that we enjoyed recording Out of the Frying Pan together as we started to play other games, and as we started to play a little bit less Middle Earth, and the Middle Earth releases slowed down a little bit as well, so there's less to talk about on a monthly basis. I think if we were both tournament goers for Middle Earth, we'd have stuff to talk about, because we'll be talking about new lists, we'll be talking about the events we're planning on going to. But because we're more narrative based gamers, there isn't that natural drive to do that. We're not those kind of rulesy kind of discussion people all the time, but we still chatted hobby all the time. We just needed a different format to do it. So this was a way of talking about whatever hobby we wanted to. Any war game goes, any miniature painting hobby, anything even slightly adjacent to it. We could just have the conversations that we were in private and record it and do the similar thing to what we did with the Out of the Frying Pan, except stick it on camera and put it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it was a way of overcoming certain limitations as well, because we could show pictures of what we were up to, and people can engage with it. I mean, they can still listen to it just as a. I mean, I know people who do, but yeah, and I'm going to word this very carefully. Stu is a very driven man. He enjoys podcasting is a separate hobby for him, whereas for me, it's something I enjoy. So half time, I don't know. I'm just the original hobby Out of the Frying Pan was three people having a conversation, and then suddenly, boom, podcast. And again, we had a conversation, and then we thought, let's give it a go. Don't worry, he's not press gang me. I'm not in his basement or anything. It's very much. I'm really lazy. So if it had been left to me, it'd never happened. So it's good that we've got someone who's a bit more driven. So yeah, that's why
it's
we
quite
are where
often
we
you
are,
that
really.
will say, when are we recording next day? So it's clearly not too bad, because you remind me.
Oh yeah. Well, I also got to plan things in, haven't I? I mean,
I only turn the lights on in his dungeon and feed him when it's a recording day. So that's why he wants to record.
Yeah, I need my new bucket of fish heads. Okay. Second question: what is your favorite game system? In brackets, not limited to GW games.
Oh, I mean, over the whole period of time, and not a particular edition, it will always be Warhammer Fantasy. Probably quite apparent based on recent things. It is the most natural thing. I think if I dream of a war game, it's that old turn sequence, it's that profile that's just is ingrained into me so much. The first game I played, etc. So favorite. If we go non-GW, just to add a little bit of a mix, different mix to it, I really enjoyed War Machine Mark II as a mechanic and the way the game worked. Really liked it. I quite enjoyed Manafoam second edition as well. Historical war games, because I know that people stored it. I'm not kind of, it's not I don't like historical war games, but for me the rule set matters a little bit less. It's more about the miniatures and the history, and then the rule set is a mechanic to it. But in terms of enjoying the rules, it will be those things. So probably War Machine Mark II, and Fantasy, the main thing. I just love that rule set, and it's home to me.
See, for me, it's probably Middle-earth. In terms of my actual favorite game system to play, to be involved in as a community. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of the communities, but of all of the communities I've been part of, it's by far, in general, being the nicest. It's also the fact that the game system hasn't really changed in 20 years. It usually shows they're doing something right. There's a part of me that still loves Heresy, but I think a lot of it is entirely down to the fluff and the painting and stuff. I quite like it, although I'm a bit bored of Power Armor.
I didn't like playing the game that much as I love the lore and the painting side of things. And that's one of the reasons I stopped playing. Actually, was that the enjoyment from the game time didn't give me anything like it did. And you mentioned, I'll get back to in a minute. And mention Middle-earth, that would be second place behind Fantasy from GW games. And if I'm honest with you, I think it's a better rule set. It's just that there's a whole lot that goes into what makes it my favorite, and then the nostalgia and the homely familiarness of Fantasy is what pips it. But anyway, so I'll let you carry on.
And I think ultimately, other than some notable exceptions, it's got a better miniature range than Middle-earth does. Sorry. Yeah, I think if it's non-GW, I haven't played terribly many. I really enjoyed my Games of Flames War. Really enjoyed that. It was really good fun. I mean, I had some great opponents, and this, that, and the other. And we didn't take it seriously. We had a laugh and just, but it played well. It was fun. I like the miniatures. I'd say that I haven't played terribly many non-GW games, if I'm completely honest, purely because Peterborough has always been very much a stronghold of GW. There's not, I mean, I know there is a local wargaming club. They're quite stuffy. I don't know if anyone's watching this, and I'm very sorry, but you're not particularly welcoming to new gamers. And that's been a problem for as long as I've been gaming, and it's a reason I've not come to play with you.
That's a problem up and down the country, really, is that a group of friends get together, they set up a club, and it's kind of their club. They want it to grow, but then also
they want the subs, but they don't want the new people.
Cliques exist in life, and the people that are at the core of it don't always necessarily realise that that's a problem, and I don't think they do it maliciously. But anyway, that's a different topic. So because Peterborough has always been so ardently GW, even if I found another game, finding another person to play it that is remotely close is. I'd imagine it's a problem. GW dominates the wargaming marketplace so much. I'd imagine that's a pretty common problem to most people. So, and that is our Discord. So thank you very much, everyone who put those questions in Discord. Let's move on to Instagram next. So, Shattershell, each of you, please let everyone know about a potential personal army project besides current ones, to caveat, for the old world that appeals to you. Army theme, unit selection, colour scheme, modelling ideas. It's always inspiring to hear what flavors and forces appeal to veteran hobbyists from narrative, aesthetic, and gaming perspectives. Right then. So it's the Empire Army that I'm planning when I finish my Breton Tomb Kings. And I'm hoping I'll be starting it in February time. It might be March, depending how long it takes me to paint the new things and paint this. So yeah, probably March. I'm hoping sort of Eastery time. I want to start doing some content for it. In terms of theme and stuff, I really have no idea. I want to wait till the book arrives. and read a bit more about the timeline. At the moment, I would like the idea of also setting them somewhere in the Border Princes, so that it kind of links in with the mini narrative that I'm setting up with my Bretts. But I don't know yet. I'm going to wait and see what they're doing with the lore, on whether I make up my own thing, which may well be the case, or whether I really like something within
Which is the
that.
closest state to the Border Princes? Is it right?
Oh, I don't know now. Should know that.
Someone will know in the comments. Pop it in the comments for us. But yeah, I mean, Empire are always a consideration because they are fun, and I did love painting Ostland. I don't know. It's hard for me because I'm deliberately trying not to think too much about it because I need to do my vampire counts. I think my next one will definitely be a supported army.
Yeah.
What that is depends on how quickly I get my VC done, what's out, what's imminent to come out, what they've talked about, whether they keep the dev diaries up.
Yeah.
Empire's always a struggle for me because they're always really tempting. Maybe Beastman. I don't know. We'll see. I think, unfortunately, it's a bit of a cop-out answer from me. I am sorry, but I need to do my VC and I need to keep on top of that. Obviously, the plan for that is to do Von Carstein-esque. Obviously, before they took over Sylvania and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a precursor thing, but it was the vampires that left Khemri, obviously, before they went into hiding. So you got the Blood Dragons who are having a kit near you anyway, the Blood Keep. And it's hiding in the wilderness of the old world and slowly, insidiously moving into Sylvania and stuff, like local lords who don't appear during the daytime and stuff like that, who are suddenly starting to accrue, lands and bits and pieces, and noblemen disappear, and then this other chap turns up. All that kind of stuff is kind of where I'm going with it.
Like it.
So
I mean, we will. These are things that we will end up. We will cover your question many times over, probably in many future shows, because as we start these projects, they will become big parts of the channels. It's a really good question, but I genuinely don't have a plan other than I know I want to do paint some Empire, and I've already got 20 state troops to start working on if I haven't bought anything beforehand. I'm just trying to be good now. I was following. I stopped myself from being stupid. I was following a battalion box on eBay the other day that went for 150. I didn't buy it, and I nearly did, and I thought, this is silly, because by the time I haven't got time to work on it, by the time I start to work on it, we don't know what's out. And if it was out, what a waste of money, because I'm bound to get more for less, or at least more than that for the money. So I'm glad I didn't, as much as it was really nice to have that stuff. It's all brand new on Sprue as well, and in box. It would have been quite cool, but I need to finish my current projects, and then we'll see. But I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to the Empire bit.
Good choice. So next one, Emperor's Path. So some people may recognize him as Sam, who was our old co-host on Out of Frying Pan. This is a typical Sam question. You're pairing a favorite single paint color with a bag of crisps. What's made the cut?
Is this as a dip? I mean, what's the closest paint flavor to sour cream and chive? I mean,
it won't be the inks, will it?
No, they wouldn't be. They wouldn't make very good dips. I mean, I don't know why I'm going down the route of dips. It just seemed the most practical. Favorite kind of, he's thinking these more abstract, and I probably should have given this one some thought before we recorded to come up with something clever. I didn't. So, favorite bag of crisps. I really like. So you can get these in Tesco's. So you get like French fry crisps, but they do really thin ones. They're like the size of matchsticks almost.
Yeah.
I love those. Absolutely love those, with red wine and loads of blue cheese. Very, very cultured. So what paint would go best with that? Let's say some nice Flesh Tearers red contrast paint, because it's a really deep, rich red that will remind me most of red wine. There we go.
Oh, red wine. See, because there's been no mention of whether they have to be current or not, I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna go for the Real Crisp Company did a jalapeno flavor crisp that was really spicy. So hopefully it'll obliterate the taste of paint. And Smelly Primer.
Oh. No, this is like, is this some kind of weird like tequila shots thing? You're downing shots of smelly primer and trying to wash it away with jalapeno crisp.
Well, there was a kid when I used to go into Games Workshop Peterborough when I was younger, a chap called Marcus, and he used to drink paint, and people would give him like 10p, 20p towards the chippy that was next door for drinking paint, and he's still alive as far as I'm aware. So it can't be that bad. But this was the old days of GW as well.
He's got no hair, and
EU.
he's all of his limbs have rotting
Well,
away or something.
he's not all hills have eyes as far as I'm aware. So I think that's so. I'm gonna go smelly primer, but I'm gonna go with a crisp so strong, hopefully, that it'll obliterate any taste of paint.
And Miniature Realms and the Hobby Hour did not condone drinking paint, and nor should you.
No.
And Sam's question did not suggest drinking paint either. That's purely come from us. Good question, Sam. Very, very, very Sam. Thanks, Sam.
So the next one is a name that pops up that I always enjoy: Finecast Enthusiast. It always makes me laugh. There's an old world wrestling competition in the Badlands. All of the big famous characters have entered. Which two characters are competing in the final to be crowned old world champion, and who wins the title? Which character gets embarrassingly defeated in the early rounds of the competition? Which character progresses much further than expected before failing a random drugs test?
Ooh,
So technically we're looking for 4.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I should have. I knew there was a couple of questions I should have prepped. I told myself today. I know I'm going to answer them all on the cuff because it's more honest and genuine. But this is one that probably needed a little bit. So who would I want wrestling? Godtrek. Absolutely love that character, and he kind of fits into that. But I'm not sure. Have you got answers for this, Dan? Have you prepped or not?
Sort of. I think because I've got to work on the fact that it's old world timeline, so I had to think about which characters might be around.
It just says an old world wrestling, so I'm just
Well, I've gone with Thorgrim Grudgebearer, sorry, versus Tyrion.
Okay,
they were both
so we got Dwarf and Elf.
They'll be the ones in the.
I thought we might be able to tag team this, and that's why I didn't know who to go for as an opponent, but I didn't think of it as the old world timeline. I just thought the old world. I was being a little bit more relaxed with it. So obviously, Gotrek is not alive during the new old world timeline.
No, he's not.
He was not born.
No, but not long off. I think he was about 200 years old or something.
Yeah, I think I don't think he gets born for another like 40 years or 50 years until the afterwards. Anyway,
so it'd be Thorgrim and Tyrion. I think would, because Thorgrim's hard as nails, and Tyrion, if he had the sword of Cain, he's gonna kick ass. In terms of which character gets embarrassingly defeated in the early rounds of the competition, that's probably a little harder to try and work out.
It's Skaven. It's got to be a Skaven because they're the kind of maybe the drugs test one.
I'm going to say Nagash.
Nagash gets embarrassingly defeated. Yeah,
because he never seems to win. Bless him. True. Not until Age of Sigmar, really, does he ever seem to get his own way.
That's a good point.
And then which character progresses much further than expected before failing a random drugs test? Now that could again be Nagash with all of the Warpstone he was
I would go with one of the Skaven because they're not expected to get further. So what should we go with? Who's I'm trying to think of the Skaven characters from the early Gotrek and Felix ones already.
Well, there's Thanquol.
Thanquol would probably be. No,
they're very short.
Again, I'm still being naughty and just thinking of it as the old world. So we don't actually know which Skaven characters really would be around.
Well, Thanquol had a real problem with Warpstone dust, so he probably would fail.
He did. That's why I think, and he wouldn't have been expected to go very far. So I think he'd win a couple based on his Warpstone addiction, and then so I'd go with Thanquol and expanding it to.
I'm going to say Morathi. Morathi's definitely going to fail on a drugs test, if I'm honest.
Oh, definitely. I could have done a better job of answering that but I would have interpreted that as just says old world rather than the old world.
Yeah, the old world.
Because we don't really know which character. It cuts it down a lot because because we don't know any of the human characters really. It cuts down who we could choose.
You pretty much have to look at the long-lived braces, which is dwarves, elves, pretty much.
Yes.
Certain chaos people because they're full of magic. And some slans. Lord Croak, he's around. Okay, so last is Colour Sergeant Studios. if you had to use one color from the Citadel paint range to describe your personality, which would it be and why?
Ooh, ooh. I'm moving away from my favorite colors. Don't know. That's a difficult one. Personality as well.
Nauseating blue.
Yeah,
Old
rattling
school.
grime. Citadel. I don't use enough
Sewer.
Yeah, I don't. I do. And it's my favorite paint as well, so it probably does surprise me. There's maybe Garrigax Sewer would possibly be it. But definitely my favorite, one of my most used paints at the moment. And the family who get to see me in person rather than just see me on camera will know that after a roast chicken dinner with plenty of greens, they'll know that I'm not always pleasant to be around afterwards. So that would be my reason, probably. Nice way to describe my personality, isn't it? As a grimy brown and a bit smelly, but there we go. What about you? I also don't know enough. I don't use Citadel enough outside of Contrast to name them all anymore.
Yeah, I still think in old paint colours, even now, it's still bleached bone to me, and I think that's been what Screaming Skull for forever.
Probably, yeah, I wouldn't even know what it's
Yeah,
changed.
I mean, I still think about things like tin bits, and that's not been something for a long, long time because I use so many non-GW colours now, which is the problem. I don't know. It's very, very hard for me. I think it's probably the hardest question I've seen written on there. I didn't come to this with an answer because I still don't actually know. What would you say for me?
Oh, well, it was hard enough choosing for me and linking it to your personality. I don't know. I think that's no idea. Absolutely. I don't know enough of their names aside from the contrast paints. And then to try and link it with your personality. I'm not
I think it's representative of what we used to do. They used to be tentacle pink, and on a number of occasions we repainted the label to say testicle pink and put it back on the shelves at GW Peterborough. So that's going to be the colour because it represents the fact that I absolutely no respect for authority.
It's good. Fair enough.
So we've got one to you specifically. And to Stuart specifically, is there a model you would instantly say no to if someone commissioned you to do it?
No, not really. I think from a serious perspective, and there would be things out there that I would probably not want to paint professionally. There are certain busts and figurines that have been made by companies a bit more on the lowdown, or that maybe not in the best taste, that I would avoid. But other than that, no. There are things that I think, that takes too long, or that's too hard, or the amount of work I have to put in it versus return, or how much I can charge, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
painting epic armies, I could have, the amount of requests I had for painting epic Napoleonics, I could have done nothing but that for 2-3 years.
I missed you when you hung yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. So I actually started limiting how much I did. So I'd have slots that I would put by for that. But no, not really.
I suppose repetition's a killer. If you do too many heresy armies in a row, you're probably going to be a little bit fed up.
It's not good for business either, I suppose, because people only see you for that. But nothing really. So there will be things that morally or through taste reasons, probably not morally, but through taste reasons, I would avoid. But I've never been asked to do anything in the 6 or 7 years I've been doing this to do anything that's problematic. There's been a couple of things that the quality's been bad. So I've had a couple of commissions where stuff is clearly recasted, and that's another topic completely. Normally I won't question things too much. I'll just paint what I've been sent, but they've been so bad I can barely build them, kind of thing. So I've had to say that I can't really work with this, and I've never had any issues, but no, not really.
Yeah, bless you.
You can answer this as well anyway, I think.
Well, one I wouldn't commission is I don't know enough time to do my own hobby. And frankly, I've got to a position now where, in order to cover the same amount I earn from my day job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. I'm in a unique position. Well, not unique, because I said anything to say. I'm in a position where I started doing this as a part-time thing, because it fitted with our needs of childcare, really, and it enabled me to keep doing this and expand. And now I'm earning a little bit from YouTube as well, so that I'm hoping over the years maybe the balance will move away from just painting other people's armies to earning some money from creating content. I'll be honest, that would be a lovely goal. But if I was still doing the job I had before and the career path I was on, I wouldn't be able to just quit that and do this. I'm able to do this because it works for us as a family, and my wife earns well, and having someone that works school hours works with the job I do rather than the job she does. She couldn't be able to do that. So and families, that just happens. She got promoted at a time when not long, 3 months after our first child. She had an opportunity for a really good promotion. She took it. I then took extra time off work because it was right for the family, for our overall money, for her career. And I was thinking of changing my career slightly anyway at that point. And you just kind of fall into things. And now, because her career has grown in one way and I've been doing something else, it would be very hard for me to just say, well, I've been out of my work for X amount of years, to apply for something and match the salary she's on now so she could drop down to this. It's just, life takes its course, doesn't it, really? So yeah, I definitely can.
Yeah.
And that's not even the question we were asked, but it's
yeah, I think in the position where I was commissioning, much like yourself, there are certain things I would find risky or objectionable to have my name tied to, potentially. Because of what I do in my day job, I know how badly these things can tie you if you're not careful, and it can follow you around for a long time. I don't think I'd necessarily particularly want my name attached to painting units of, let's say, it's an easy shot, so no one take too much offense to this, but I wouldn't necessarily want to paint up a unit of World War II Germans that were known for participating in massacres, for instance.
Yeah, I'm with you.
If someone said to me and said, I want to paint that particular unit and I want all the, I've green stuffed all the faces to match people, and I'll be like, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does that, if I'm honest.
I would
But
hope
yeah, I
not.
can get not
But
that I've seen it, but yeah, I know you. I know, understand what you mean.
I think, to be honest, for me, it'd be a case of, even if you were painting, say, a political unit for bolt action, say, I'd paint the armband red, but I ain't painting the rest of it.
Yeah,
You crack on. That, for me, that's my line in the sand. That's not the same for everyone. But I'm quite funny about that kind of thing. You never know who you're going to offend.
I've never been asked to do anything like that. I'm not sure that comes up that much.
Yeah,
it's not normally there. But interesting. I mean, Colour Science Students, that's Matt. So Matt, if he's a commission painter himself, so maybe it's something that, so he'd let us know in the comments what miniature that he would
I'd be interested.
Answer those questions himself, because I'll be interested as well.
So moving on to Facebook, we've had a few people. Michael Haskell, formerly mentioned, lovely gentleman. So it's similar to previous question. Top 3 games in order that you play as often as you can and keep tabs on. Kind of half covered this.
We have,
but also not.
Yeah. So top 3 games in order you play as often as you can. It's going to be Fantasy. Once it's out, it will be again. Middle Earth will be right there as well. And then the third one will be very, very sort of a generic, whatever historical kick I'm on at a time. And that is a cheat, I suppose, but it will cycle through. Yeah.
Yeah, see, for me, it's Middle Earth, because I still keep tabs on it. And I still have an interest. And at the moment, I'm just painting bits for the old world, so it's slightly different, which is why that's in second. I think as soon as Old World's released, that will probably leapfrog into first. And, well, I suppose technically Mordheim, because it's the last thing I bought models for.
Yeah. I almost see those like subsidiaries of fantasy for me. That's the thing. But I cover so much on the channel now. It's always going to cycle around a lot, I think.
Or possibly Necromunda, because I've still got a gang for that. I've still got my corpse grinders for that.
That'll be something. I bought that when it launched. Didn't do anything. Just sold the box.
Dark Harvest, where it's called.
Whatever the original Necromunda re-release was. I bought it, did nothing with it, sold it. And it's not because I don't think it's cool. Eventually I will probably cycle to play that, especially the Aswade stuff. It looks amazing. You walk around.
Yeah,
that's more me actually. I looked at that. This is great, but I just haven't got the bandwidth at the moment, and maybe it will happen at some point. I will.
I want to paint the Venator. I really want to paint the Taurus Venator.
Some of there's a display in the Old World Museum of all of the HAB units and stuff. It looks like incredible. I saw that. I thought, oh, stop looking, because that makes me want to play.
Okay, so top 3 games in no order that you think might very well play someday. So you get some of the figures, the rules, and sort of keep an eye on. In brackets, in Dan's case, as he travels miniatures backlog light, the equivalent of.
Okay. So I suppose we've just mentioned Necromunda. That's something that's on my radar one day to maybe do. Age of Sigmar, because it looks like a really interesting game system. I love a lot of the models for it. And I may well have a look at it when the 4th edition comes out. It sounds like it's going to be next year. Timing wise, I'm probably in such a big old world kick, it makes it harder, but it's something I would like to play at some point in the future. And then I suppose the third one will always be something cycling, and it will be some kind of so many historical periods. So just insert whatever historical book or movie I've just watched and I've got a little kick for at the time. So that will cycle around as well. Things I want to try, but so many things. I'd like to give War Machine a go again in the future at some point, because I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I think for me, Flames of War. That's right up there for me, I think. Silver Dagger. Or Silver Bayonet, sorry.
Silver Bayonet, yeah.
That's sort of, I'm keeping an and Warcry. So they're all relatively
things I've all got planned, I suppose. And I suppose then I was thinking about things I don't already have content, small plans for here or there. So yeah, they would all. It's easy to. The nature of the channel covering so much stuff means that mentally I've got lots of plans, and some of them just get potentially put on snooze because of other releases.
It's always the way. Top 3 games in no order you really would like to play, but just know you simply won't have time. So wistfully let pass you by.
You maybe list some of those same things as a bit of a prediction, really. I'm trying to think of something a little bit different. I'm not sure I can, because I just tend to buy things with the hope that I will have chance to play them and don't do it. And quite often I don't have the willpower to say no, and Necromunda is one of those things. I've got that Dread stuff I've bought. I don't know how often I will play that. I will paint the bits I've got slowly. But I like to play it. But again, where does it fit in with my, I don't know. I struggle there, I'm afraid, because I think it kind of blends in with the second thing, because I've got so many in the rotation. I think some of those could be used in either. There's probably things I've forgotten as well. Games out there I've forgotten.
For me, Legions Imperialis. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. I just don't. I think a Heresy version 2, Age of Darkness. It's just not happening. Which is a bit of a shame, really, because I'd like it to, but it just doesn't. Just really doesn't.
Legions does that for me now in terms of covering the fact that I love the Heresy so much. Legions kind of enables me to dip my toe back into that without the commitment. I think I'm at a point now where I can. This is probably the reason why why you won't do Legions. And you showed me some pictures of something earlier that kind of sums that up in some ways. Is that I think I'm able to let go now with Legions and paint that a little bit more basic, to paint them to the standard I did in those videos, rather than the standard I would have wanted to do if they were my kind of main game, so to speak. With that a little bit more. And I think I've seen a way through that with the Marine armies anyway, with the legionaries, to do a relatively quick job. And be happy with it, and that way it can exist in my gaming collection. I don't think I could do that with heresy, and then that becomes another 28mm stroke 32mm game that I want to put a lot of time into.
Yeah, I think my final one is Underworlds, because I always get tempted.
That actually, good
but
shout,
I can't be doing my deck building. I find I instantly get turned off as soon as people start talking about cards. I
Yeah,
just can't.
yeah,
Give
I've
me
never been a
D6s and
card gamer.
miniatures.
We talked about this when we were chatting with Tom the other day, and I can't remember if it was recorded or not recorded, but we were talking about Star Wars card game Destiny. I play that with my wife Emma, but we just play it as the basic starter decks, and we just treat it as a game. And we don't play it enough to go away and kind of build the decks for it. So if you can play a game like that, I'd enjoy it. And I think you can do that with Underworld. So you can get the versus decks you mentioned. And she would probably play it because she's more into game mechanics. She's not into fantasy. And that would be my way of playing a miniatures game with her, if that makes sense. So that route, I could see it. Very few models,
and the models
to paint.
Are beautiful.
I've even got some of the models I could use. I'll end up with models for Mordheim that I'm not sure it matters what shape the base is, really, does it? Because it's done on doesn't matter at all. It's hex base, so it doesn't matter. So I can use my Mordheim witch hunters that I painted for that. I can actually use them as their original designed use for the hex painted hunters. So I could technically play that, and maybe I will. I've got their things, and at some point I'll get a star set. So I like the idea, but it would be buying it as a game to add to our family games collection downstairs to play with the wife, probably.
And finally, any historical periods or fantasy worlds you wish there was a miniatures tabletop game for, but as far as everywhere, there isn't.
Historical, no. I think all the things I enjoy are covered. So much covered. Fantasy, aside from Lord of the Rings and Warhammer Fantasy, the old world, aside from those two areas, I just grew up with them and loved them. There's a third that had a big impact on me in the same period, and that's Dragonlance. I love Dragonlance. The first couple of books, probably now in hindsight, are not the best written, especially the first one was very much could be read as a bad Lord of the Rings ripoff, but I love it. But the books got better after that, and the Twins trilogy is amazing. How that would work as a game, I don't know. Probably a skirmish game would be best. I don't know. Maybe just need to roleplay, but I'd like some official. There's some nice 3D ones that I love. Some official miniatures and a game out there. So Dragonlance.
Good choice for me. It's easy. June.
I got a feeling that will come, don't you think?
The idea of painting a Sardaukar army makes me very happy. I'd love to do that.
Are you just waiting for Asmodee to do that? Is that just going to happen, isn't it? Or someone's going to do it?
Have they got the rights?
Well, no, I don't think they have. I don't know if
hopefully
anyone has.
Someone will.
But they would be my guess. Hopefully.
I mean, admittedly, there's not going to be a huge number of factions, which limits it, unfortunately, unless they decide to go for the expanded lore, because you've got Harkonnen,
it'd be skirmish based, wouldn't it?
And
that's how you
Sardaukar.
When you haven't got that many factions, that's where you bring it down to the
pirates,
like micro level, don't you? And make it kind of almost Star Wars Shatterpoint-esque, and have it very much as skirmish battles, weirding battles, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Paul
but
and
again,
Gurney and
who's going to do it? Someone like Mantic could do it. They tend to get licenses that maybe don't have. I don't know how much the license would be, but they tend to do.
At the risk of upsetting people, I'd like nice models. And there's not one miniature line they do I'm not keen on.
No, see, I'm not a huge fan of Mantic models. And we discussed this before a little bit on the
but Hellboy is supposed to be all right.
But their licensed stuff is really good. And the stuff, and even the Walking Dead stuff they did. Yes, it's not film, it's not TV copies, but it's kind of, I painted some of that as a commission. They're nice models. And the Hellboy stuff is nice. So the licensed models, they will be fine. They will be absolutely fine. It's the stuff they do, which is you're not fantasy, you're not 40k options, which is clearly what they're designed to be. Budget, sell these to people. And Kings of War is a great set of rules. It's just, I didn't like the minutes just don't excite me. But their other side of the business, they do very well. So I think they do a good job.
As long as it's not the mob who did Harry Potter.
Well, I've got the starter game for that. and the miniatures they released recently, the scale's so far off. It's like they said it's the same scale, and it's
much
the same
smaller,
as,
isn't it?
it's crazy. It's like having a Lord of the Rings miniature versus a modern day fantasy miniature and pretending they're the same thing. They at risk of, well, I'm not being sent stuff by Night Models, but they do some beautiful sculpts, but there's a lot of things that are really bad about the way they do stuff.
Don't they do Batman Night Models?
They do some beautiful
which are
models.
supposed to be really, really nice.
Yeah, I've painted some lovely ones. I've done some in a commission this last year, but again, that would concern me. Mantic would do a good job of it, and they'd probably get someone good to write the rules. I can imagine, and they get Alessio in or something like that to do it. Maybe that's the River Horse. Maybe he gets the license to do a Dune game and get someone else to do the miniatures, and they River Horse do it as a skirmish game or something like that. So I'd like, I could see it as a skirmish game. It'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Or you find someone who's done 3D models of them in small scale, and you just use Legion's rules and convert them, and then that's how you do your mass battle games. So you just print them all and do them that way.
Can't argue with that. That endeth Michael Haskell's. Thank you very much, Michael. Mr. Dan Entwistle. Not at all a leading question here. What are you looking forward to most about the old world coming out?
I wonder what he's looking forward to most about it coming out. I'm looking forward to the books, to actually books, whatever we get. I imagine there's going to be more than one. I imagine just a rule book. I think there's going to be some kind of campaign supplement within it. But yeah, we know 90% of what the miniatures are going to be. We recognize them already. There's new stuff, but now it's just getting my hand on the book. Can't wait to whenever it is. Can't wait. I'm going to be so desperate to get hold of it on release day, and FOMO on pre-order day is going to be bad. I'm going to be really jealous when you start seeing it appear in the wild and people have got copies and I haven't got mine. Try and behave myself and not get too jealous, but yeah, the books, can't wait to get hold of those books and start reading them and making content on it. We're really going to be exciting times, really. So the books, want the books, want them, and the miniatures, but I want the books as well.
I agree in so much as it'd be nice to know what I need to do to build my army. Completely agree. Even though the likelihood is it'll be, they've talked about all models will have at least points and stuff. So Ravening Hordes or whatever it'll end up being, that will be good to know what I'm aiming towards. But more than anything else, I think it's actually the direct support that GW will start giving it. I'm hoping at least where we start having events, because it was always a system that lent itself well to match play. So I'm hoping there's going to be events at Warhammer World.
That would be good.
Which I can paint my army really nicely for and
try and pick some more glass.
Yeah, I know it sounds a bit conceited, but that's what I'm in the hobby for. I like painting miniatures and trying to go for best painted.
Nothing wrong with aiming to get best painted at events.
That's it. I mean, I don't care what it is at the game. I prefer it, if anything. But yeah, I think more than anything else is seeing the GW train pick up after it's dropped, and hopefully gain that support from the events team, etc., to go out and actively play some games and get involved with the broader community, meet people, show toys off, all that kind of stuff. The good stuff.
That was a better answer than my kind of jealous, I just want the books, give me the books, and I get it now. Because that's a less obvious answer. It's truthful, but as yours is in terms of a proper, more impactful answer, makes more sense. Because beyond the point of me getting my hands on things that we're all going to have it that we want, yes, the kind of almost the rebirth of the game as a community beyond one big toxic Facebook group and a few nicer periphery ones. Yes, it'll be nice to see the community grow again.
So Christopher Murfitt, what model do you wish you own?
I wish I owned most of the Metal Dwarf army that I sold. My only regret, really, I don't normally regret selling stuff on, but I sold that thinking I wasn't going to play fantasy anymore and play lots of War Machine. I had stuff that was from all eras, but it wasn't cheap to buy on eBay back then, but it was cheap compared to what it is now. I had 30 Metal Slayers, or sort of 2 or 3 sort of additions. I had some of the Regiment of Renown stuff. So the Imperial Dwarves, or not Long John Slayers. I didn't have those. I had the so the Imperial Dwarves. They were what are they called? Gunthars something or other, Imperial Dwarves. And they had the almost Bretonnian style helmets, and they were dressed like knights, so a little bit small actually compared to some of them. So I had those Bugmans originals and some of the next edition, because there were 2 lot sets of Bugmans and his Rangers. I had those. Just so much stuff. I've still got the Goblobber. That's the only metal miniature I've got left, and I plan on stripping that and reintroducing that when I finally get around to dwarves. So what, with this in mind, so I've sold my dwarf army that has been on the channel, the 3D printed one, recently. I've sold it this week actually, because I loved it, and it looks like, reminds me of old fantasy, but it just got me thinking about the old dwarf army. So I've talked about my next plan. So I really want to do Empire, and I will, but I might slowly start to try and buy lots of the classic dwarves and go back to, I don't know if it'll be all metal, because they might release something new that I like the look of. So it won't, I'm not necessarily going to stick to a rule where it has to be old metal, but I'm going to try and go just get dwarf miniatures I really like and spend a long time repurchasing some of those. And I'm going to use that Goblobber in the army as my grudge thrower, or my stone thrower.
Nice.
That's why I sold it, because I realized that as much as I loved it, I've got 3 armies to finish painting before I even potentially got to that stage, and then I might even wait longer and make it a longer, expensive, but slowly buying some metals and getting the miniatures I really love from the old range. So it's turned into a different project. So not a rejection of the army I did. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it, but decided I wasn't ever going to paint it. So we will see how that goes as and when, and what they release, and how, what they bring back.
Well, my answer is quite simple. Alfred in a dress.
The what?
Alfred in a dress.
Alfred,
as in
in a
Alfred
dress.
from The Hobbit in
Oh,
dress. They did a Forge. They did a Warhammer.
I've got it. Yeah,
Forge World one.
I own him. He's very cool.
He
is painted.
That's
the
cool. One I want.
Oh, that will come back. That's
well, hopefully, yeah. Fingers crossed.
That's not even that old. That will make it. That'll be a made to order at some point. So.
Yeah, you certainly hope so. So yeah, and Sassy Gandalf's on the list as well. But they're the 2 models, and they remain the 2 models right at the top of the list.
Alfred in dress is a good one. It's good fun.
Yeah, it's just a model I want to paint. Okie dokie. So, Andy, you're gonna have to forgive me. Is it Andy Foe? Andy Fogg.
It stands for Friends of General Haig. So it's Andy. It's he writes a fantastic blog on Friends of General Haig, War Gamers from Worcester as well. So so that's what that's the acronym that makes up what looks like a surname as well, and confuses people.
So Desert Island Middle-earth battles. If you could recreate any battle, 1st through 3rd ages, which would you do? Why? And what scale / rule set would you use?
So this kind of brings back unhealed wounds for some plans we had for a massive Helm's Deep game that started as all 28 mil, and then evolved into something else, and then just plans were cancelled. Probably still that, if I'm honest with you. Probably still Helm's Deep. I quite like the darkness of Helm's Deep over Pelennor and Siege of Minas Tirith. So if I could do anything I wanted, it would be a 10 mil Warmaster sized massive Helm's Deep game with miniatures that don't really exist unless you go 3rd party or 3D printed, using Warmaster. But then I would love to have some spin-off tables, which is what we were planning for a bigger games day. Just no time to do this at the moment, using SPG, Middle-earth strategy battle game, to do certain key points, and maybe we even pause the big battle while we go and fight those things in smaller scale. So if you're familiar with the films and you think of when Aragorn and Gimli climb down and then fight in front of the gatehouse, we actually pause. Those scenarios exist, written by Games Workshop for Middle-earth strategy battle game. So actually use those, and the outcome of that smaller game has an impact on the wider Siege game. Then you go back to the wider Siege game again. I'd love to do a massive linked thing, probably played over 2 days. And maybe we'll do it one day. But I've got to stop having big ideas and asking people to do it, start doing it, and then they're not carrying on. And I think right now I wouldn't. The next person involved, next question is from John. John was really up for that, and I probably let him down by saying, yes, you can be part of it, and then not doing it. And then we talked about changing it to a Pelennor version as well, and he's probably given up on me actually organising it, and I'm not going to organise it until I know I'm actually going to be able to do it. But yes, that's what I would do. What about you?
Forlost in 28mm, just because Gilgalad versus Witch King would be pretty cool.
Very cool.
And it's always a battle I've always found really interesting. A period of the time, obviously, this when the prediction, or his prophecy about no mortal man may kill him was made.
Yes.
So I've always found that particular part of, Middle Earth history really interesting, really exciting. Sort of the grim, dark, sort of northern areas of Arda. I think it's opportunity to make a cool table, have lots of fun with it.
Yep.
There's also an awful lot of interesting, people. The last King of Gondor is there. You've got halflings who are dressed as like royal guard who came over. It's why the Barrows, the Barrow Downs are there. It's so much involved in it. It's very cool. So, next question, John Kitchen. What is that item that's in the pile of shame that you can't move on, but you also can't seem to get around to painting, or worse, still completing?
I've got loads of them because I've got slow moving projects like the epic ones where I've painted good chunks of it, but nowhere near the full collections that I have. I think I've talked about this before. I'm pretty comfortable with those because they're historical miniatures and they don't kind of go out of date the same way as other games do. You don't get a new version so much. They tend to stick around. So I'm fairly comfortable, but I am always aware that they're not finished, and it'd be nice to have them in the cabinet. But again, probably couldn't do that and still do the channel because I would doing one thing. So the nature of enjoying making content, it's part of my hobby is now making content, means I will continuously be changing what I produce content for. So that helps a little bit. So maybe those, if I can't move on, but can't seem to get around to painting. The worst one would be that I'm struggling to, I know that it might never get finished in terms of a project. I've got lots of it to do, but I still stop myself from getting rid of it, is my little 10mm Wars of the Roses project. Because I want it finished, I want it done, and there wasn't all that much to do, but also the motivation to go and paint it right now is zero, almost. I just, some things think, I can get this unit done and it'll be fine. The thought of going back and doing those again, I just can't do it at the moment, which is a shame. But when I did that, I just wasn't planning on. I think Epic American Civil War was out at that point. We didn't even know the other things were coming when they did that, and it's. The time I can imagine by the time I get around to do it, they'll bring out Epic Wars of the Roses or something, and it'll definitely end up in the bin. So what about you? You tend to get bin stuff already, don't you, rather than getting to that position?
Malzog's Legion for Middle Earth.
Oh, of course, yeah. You had as a present a lot of them as well, haven't they?
I have not paid for a single one of those models, which is nice. But I've assembled all of it so far. I've got a few models I need to buy, admittedly. But yeah, and there's a few models to convert as well. I've got to convert as I've gone White Warg, because I've got 2 of the armored one and stuff. But it'll get done. It just slips.
Has to cycle back round so you've got the motivation to do it, and it may well be something happens with Middle Earth that makes you want to do it. Again.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of it. That, and I was originally going to paint it for Scouring Stockport, Steve's event, and then I can't remember why I had to basically knock that on the head, so it just didn't happen. So yeah, that's the one for me. I suppose Forge of Thorin's company set up there as well. But I can chip away at that one model at a time and it'll eventually get done. So,
yeah.
Okie dokie. Last one from Facebook is from Scott Newman. What Middle Earth model would you love to see come out in the future?
I still would like to see, like, this is very boring, really. It's nothing. Dan's probably going to come out with something more interesting. But I still love the original film trilogy in terms of the connection with those models, and I still want a plastic foot and mounted Aragorn updated LSR, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just it's just needed. You've got and Boromir, so probably both of them, really. So you've
although
got
Boromir's awkward because you've got White Tower. Which one do you do?
Yeah,
and they're too distinct to be able to do a Witch King job on it, where you could do one of either.
Yeah, probably. But those that I feel they're needed, and we got it with nice one with the Rohan's covered, isn't it, with brand new foot and mounted for both AMO and for Theoden. I'd like to see similar treatment for
unless you did Forge World for LSR.
Yeah, I don't mind it being Forge World, to be honest with you.
Plastic for Aragorn.
Potentially. We've got you've got the
3 Hunters one, haven't you?
3 Hunters Aragorn, yeah, which is cool, which is fine. That does the job for me for the fellowshipy stuff. So it's the Aragorn King, basically.
Yeah.
And I probably, in retrospect, the more I think about it, I would say Boromir for a mounted, Boromir of Gondor kind of thing, rather than Boromir in the Fellowship. I think for Minas Tirith players, that would be needed. So you're with your banner. It's not.
It also completes the set of sort of revamped characters, because you've had Denethor, Irolas, Hurin,
a banner with a decal in there as well for the tree. It would be modern, for the tree. It'd be a cool way of doing it.
Mold it.
I hate molded stuff on banners.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
And I find them a pain in the butt to paint, if I'm honest with you. To be neat on them and not, it really annoys me. Or I'd rather they were recessed rather than embossed. It's just a personal thing. I don't like painting those. I'd rather get a decal. Than they can be a real pain. When I painted the Dreadfleet commission, I did, funny enough, for Damien. All of those sails with the lovely stuff on them. You think they're actually, do them neatly and to do them well is a pain in the bum. But that would be it. Probably Boromir, actually. Now I've talked about it and said something else first.
That's LSR's up on the list, but actually, Catapult Troll. I'd love to see them do the Catapult Troll for Azog's Legion.
Maybe they will in the future.
And if they did that, I would
that will be the catalyst to make you go, right, I want to do that.
Or a new Bolg. New Bolg would be good. A Bolg in plastic would be amazing. Obviously, we're going to need an Azog armored. I mean, to be honest, Azog's screaming out to be one of the next ones to do plastic, because you could do armor or not armor. You just clip it on or whatever, swap the legs.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So foot mounted Azog would be a really good one in plastic. But there is part of me, it's just like, I'd love a Catapult Troll because it's just cool as hell.
It is cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
I would like that.
All the troll with
Azogs. I've got my tiny little Azog's force that I would expand at one point.
Yeah, I think that's that for me. Catapult Troll. Okie dokie. So we've had one message on Twitter from Jordan.
My fault for not posting it, though a lot of the people that have asked there would be people that are on Twitter
probably
as well.
Would have anyway. Yeah. Mr. Jordan Sorcery. What are your hobby gaming plans for the festive days? Any family games of Mordheim or similar plan for Christmas afternoon?
So, no. I've still got to read the Mordheim rules, which we need to before the 19th of January, when we're all meeting up to play it. That's probably one of my festive hobby plans, is actually reading those rules and planning the day's gaming. So I've got lots of narrative ideas, but I need to make them work rules wise, and produce a little mini pack for you two to work from. But we will play games. The family plays a lot of games, but I've got a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old, so the games aren't always wargaming related. I've got I like to play some Blood Bowl. bought that recently. None of it's painted, but we'll play. My wife will play Blood Bowl. Used to play with her, and my son had a Blood Bowl human team for his birthday. He asked for, he wanted the standard ones, not the one that come in the new starter. He wanted a tier 1 team. It's already tells me what I got to look forward to in the future. He'll smash me. He's very he's much more games mechanics focused, even at a young age. So he's going to be one of those that beats me all the time. So probably some Blood Bowl over the festive period if I can teach him and reteach my wife, and I suppose relearn myself. The game hasn't really changed though, so it won't take long to go back into memory. In terms of miniature gaming though, that will probably be it. I won't do any other at home until the old world comes out and I force Jacob to play me. Yeah, but we will play other stuff. We'll play loads of Carcassonne, and we'll play, wife and I'll probably play some Destiny, and we'll lots of games like that. We crack Small World out. I've not played that for a while. There's lots of zombie dice. The kids love that and things. We play loads of games, and there'll be lots of evenings like that, but not much in terms of that kind. What about you, Dan?
No. One, I don't. I've got a family. I don't have kids or a partner. So I'll go see my folks on Boxing Day. We always get a bit squiffy, play cards and stuff like that. That'll be kind of thing. And over the festive period, I'm just going to be painting. There's a potential. A few of the boys are looking at potentially going to Warhammer World on the bridging week. We'll see if that materializes. If it does, maybe. Yeah. But given the only thing I'm really playing at the moment or have models for is Middle Earth, and most of them are playing Heresy, probably not. So we'll see. But yeah, generally, I mean, I've never really done much gaming at home, if I'm completely honest. So it's definitely not been on the cards for this year. But I'll still have a laugh. I'll probably just play video games, if I'm honest with you, on Christmas afternoon, etc. Try and finish Assassin's Creed. Cool. So moving on to, we've got 2 more questions left. They were direct questions. So the first one is Mr. Matt Davies. Are you planning to go to any specific events in the new year?
I have no events planned at all at the moment. It's very hard to. I need the quite often they don't come out early enough for me to plan too far in advance. Because my wife, her job means she works a lot of Saturdays, so I can only go away at the weekend where most events are naturally if she's free to look after the boys, and that means that the Saturday that she does get off in that given month, and where we might go away and do something as a family gets written off, so there's a double-edged sword on that. So it is hard to plan, so I can only usually do a few a year. That'll get easier as the boys get a little bit older. But I'll be looking out for anything old world related if they do announce it. Hopefully they announce it in enough time in advance where I can book a day in before it's too late. We talked a little bit about potentially Salute, didn't we? Yep. We'd like to, at the moment, looks like potentially do it because it's the week the kids have gone back before that from Easter, so it doesn't clash with Easter. I did look at so we'll talk about the Square Based podcast, and they did a event in Canada, and they've put a date in for one in the UK, which would be an old world event, but it's on Easter weekend. It's Easter Saturday, Easter Sunday. Sorry, wifey. I'm not going to be around on Easter Sunday with my children. I'm going to go and play Warhammer. Yeah. Don't fancy
probably not going to go down too well.
Don't fancy a divorce. I'll have to sell off all my models to afford to live afterwards. Wait and see, really. Hopefully for something old world, maybe Salute, maybe Fest, if they change the format.
Yeah, I'm not bothered by Fest unless they come out and say they've done some
We'll see.
changes.
We'll see. I wouldn't mind trying it and seeing. I really want to speak to the people behind the games, which is, we've talked about this before in a previous episode. But I wouldn't mind if I'm free and I can get the pass, and I know there's people going I can meet up with, as other YouTubers and stuff. That might be fun just to try and do it for that reason. Use it for some networking, but who knows? But no, not really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be doing the Green 12 War Specialist game weekend again this coming year. There'll be more to come announced on that. I'll be running another Middle Earth event there. Obviously, we're going to go play some Mordheim. That's it.
Cool.
That's all I've got planned.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. If we go.
Yeah. If we go, well, if I can get a free weekend, I will. It depends what else it clashes with in the month rather than that day, really. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Then obviously, if there's Middle Earth stuff or the old world stuff, we'll see. But okie dokie. Finish on a good one. So, Sophie Wilkinson, what books are the best at introducing Warhammer lore to non-hobbyists?
So I would say, rather than anything specific that sort of tells you something about the timeline here or there, because some people will want to tell you the whole story. So it's like, well, I want to learn about the Horus Heresy. Well, there's 52 books here, and then you've got the the extra series at the end, which tells you all about how it ends. And once you've absorbed something of that magnitude, it's very hard sometimes to be ruthless and edit out the stuff that really is not needed to give someone the flavor. So you could say, well, we'll just read the first 5 books and then read the siege books at the end, and you'll get a decent enough idea of the whole of the heresy. And you probably do, for being really, really brutal. So with that aside, as a bit of an example of why it's hard to pick something specific, I'd just say something that gives a really good individual stories that give a really good flavor for the world, rather than concentrate on any major events or timelines. So that will be as simple as Skaven Slayer. Better than it gives you a nice feeling of what the old world is like and I imagine that feeling would match the old world rather than a timeline rather than a new one. So little examples like that.
Yeah, it's also well written, and it's humorous enough that it will hook people who are completely not invested in any way, shape, or form yet.
Yeah, I agree. Galaxy in Flames, second heresy book, moves the story on a little bit, but that probably that whole first 5 books really does it.
Galaxy in Flames is number 3.
Is it number 3?
Is number 2.
Oh right, yes, there we go. That shows how long I've.
But the first 3 books, to be fair, the ones that they would be ones I'd recommend. The first 3 heresy books. Number 1 with the bullet for 40K.
It's 4, isn't it? Eisenstein was 4.
Flight of Eisenstein, and then Mechanicum.
Fulgrim is 5.
Fulgrim, then Mechanicum.
Fulgrim, if you're a bit sick, it's amusing, but
it rounds off Isfahan though, which is the good thing about it.
It does, and I think if you want to understand the heresy and what it's about, those 5 would do it. And again, that's 5 books. That's a big thing, but it does it well, and then you can skip an awful lot.
Pages you're going to go for at that point.
They're good. They are good.
Yeah, they are. They are.
It depends which bit of Warhammer lore, doesn't it?
But
I think as much as I love that original Empire trilogy, it's very much Empire's prehistory.
Yeah.
Sigmar as a barbarian, essentially, it doesn't really teach you as much. They're just good books. And there are probably lots of really a lot of stuff written by Dan Abnett, because he gives it from a human perspective, which I think helps you understand the world which you're in, especially for 40K. I love any of the Eisenhorn stuff because it just gives you a bit more of a feel from the world outside from Bolter Pawn Space Marines.
I would choose Caiaphas Cain over that. Agreed that Dan Abnett gives you a better flavour through Eisenhorn, Ravener, Beckwin. Like about the workings of the Imperium outside of frontline battle. Caiaphas Cain does both.
Right.
War
I haven't
and
read it and I need to.
Peace, or as much as the Imperium is ever peace, but it's told in a very humorous way. It's basically Flashman in space.
Yeah, which is good fun.
To anyone who's not read Flashman, Lord Flashheart from Blackadder.
Yes, yeah.
As a commissar. So it basically, he is an abject coward. It's told basically as his memoirs, which have been collated and abridged and are commented upon by an inquisitor called Amberley Vale. Makes little sly digs at him and stuff. It's quite funny. But it's told from his memoirs, but he's actually surprisingly forthright about actually how much of a coward he is. And basically, in an effort to get himself out of danger, he puts himself into further danger. He's a reasonably adept fighter and stuff, and he's an intelligent guy, so he manages to get himself out of it and unwittingly becomes essentially a hero because he's a self-serving idiot. He, in order to try and save his own skin, he actually ends up ending up as a hero, and he's got an adjutant called Jurgen, who's a Valhallan. So he stinks. That's the first thing. He's supposed to be absolutely gross, because obviously Valhallans live on an ice world, and he's wearing the full regalia.
Yeah.
In temperate environments, and apparently, and not to mention, he's also a pariah. He's a blank. So basically, the reason he keeps him as an adjutant is, one, he can get hold of this Tanner tea, which Kane served with the Valhallans first. So he's able to get him that and brew it properly, and Kane really loves it. But also, it means that people can't get through Jurgen or don't want to, so they leave him alone. So if you leave him in the antechamber out of the office, Jurgen's good at just basically telling people to sling their hook, and if not, people just don't want to be anywhere near him. So it keeps, and there's their interplay. It's brilliant. They're a really well written set of books. So I definitely recommend those. Yeah, they're right at the top. The first 3 Heresy books. I've not read any Age of Sigmar books other than the Cursed City one. So that's it. So apparently there are some good ones. Loon King's supposed to be all right. And a few of the other ones are supposed to be all right as well. The Pale King is they did the miniature for him. He's a vampire.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
His books are supposed to be pretty good as well. But yeah, Gotrek and Felix are right up there. The Ulrika spin-off for Old World was pretty good as well. Malus Darkblade, he's up there.
Yeah.
But it's quite elf-centric, so I don't know if it's necessarily the best intro to the lore.
Yeah, that's the thing I can think of good, but when Jordan and I doing the book club, Drachenfels is absolutely fantastic. But I'm not sure it's lore that's now kind of been
scrapped over
a bit, so I'm not sure it's helpful.
There were 3 Empire books, like a swordsman something. I can't remember what they are old now, but they were old school. Obviously the Dwarf books.
Yeah, really Dwarf books are really good actually. Yeah.
The Gav Thorpe and Nick Kine ones were really good for those. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. I mean, I've read so many. I think I've read the vast majority of books, at least for a certain period. I read everything because we get told to no loss it at the shop, and we used to just read it on lunchtime, then throw it away. Sorry. So I read an awful lot of that. But yeah, I'll definitely say Caiaphas Cain, the first 3 Heresy books, and then probably the Slayer series.
Yeah, I think when we talked about this, there's one thing we did discuss a little bit when this question came in, wasn't it? Was there's a lot I started and didn't finish.
Yeah.
And I think anything for me that's has too much of a percentage of bolter or sword porn, it's nearly all fighting, and their characters are very one-dimensional, super strong, angry kind of things that there's no depth to it. That's why I struggle with them when I get bored. And that's why I talked about the examples we've both given actually was when there's either some humor built in or there's that real understanding of human characters. And those, we didn't mention, if anyone hasn't read those Heresy books, especially with Dan Abner, but it's kind of set up originally the way they tell the story of the legionaries, of these super post-human space marines, is also through the eyes of humans. A lot of it set up through, so basically historians and reporters and at the time, and it really it describes them far better at that time than any novel about a space marine ever did.
It's the transhuman dread, they call it, which I like. They refer to as something that big and that heavy should not move that fast. That's basically what they refer to, because these are 8 foot tall, genetically modified superhumans built in tank-like armor, and it can outrun a tank. It shouldn't move that quick. So that's a really interesting perspective they gave to it. I think it was one of the first times they ever really did it. Yeah.
Well, you look at the novels out there that become #1 bestsellers on the proper #1 bestsellers list. There's some of the Heresy books. It's the Empire series by McRae Neil. I think he won a Gemmell Award for that.
Yeah, Nagash got some, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think so. So as much as maybe they're not the best introduction for lore, so this is moving away from Sophie's question a little bit in terms of if you're not a fan of a lot of Black Library fiction or Warhammer fiction because you see it as maybe subpar, and I'll be honest with you, some of the things I've stopped reading because of for that very reason. Those ones generally are a little bit different and they stand apart in the quality of their writing, and they are, and I think I said it years ago, not on this show, is the reason I enjoyed them is because they stood up as novels in their own right.
Yeah.
Whereas some of them would only be of interest to fans of the game. Whereas these you could give to a fantasy enthusiast of fantasy novels, and they actually realize that they're good stories. They're just so different. So
yeah, I think Ravener would probably qualify as decent sci-fi in its own right. It's got a bit of, Dick, kind of the way he writes it, like Joanne George of Electric Sheep. There's some of that vibe to it. It's weird.
I've not read Gordon's Ghost, but I always hear good things about him.
Gordon's Ghost is really good. Although you have to forgive, because they were some of the very earliest ones, particularly First and Only, the very first one they did. Clearly at that point, Dan didn't know the universe particularly well, and there's a number of things he gets wrong or contradicts himself in later books, which is someone who's a seasoned lore enthusiast and played the game. Yeah, but you have to forgive it because it gets so much better. And actually, the most recent one, Anarch, it's not listed as a Warhammer horror, but it is. It's awesome. It's really well written, and it's got some proper Event Horizon stuff going on in that one. It's great.
I think what it comes back to with me, if I'm really honest with you, it's is it written by Dan Abnett, Ray McNeil, Phil King, Gav Thorpe to a certain extent, because of his knowledge.
No offense to Gav.
Not all, but his knowledge of the. I prefer his writing is probably least out of the people I've mentioned there. But
Last Chances was not my cup of tea.
I didn't read those ones,
but the Elf and the Dwarf books he did were amazing.
Yeah, that would be my example.
Angels of Darkness, which it polarizes people, that book, but I like it.
I don't think it was a bad book. Yeah, it's just not what people wanted at the time. So yeah, there are some books of his I don't think are as good, but he's written a lot, and his knowledge, again, he's someone born from the studio, and his knowledge of lore is incredible as well. So, and there are other authors
up there as well. And Steve Alden's right up there for me.
Of course, yeah. Heresy wise, I've not read anything of his that's not heresy.
To be honest, actually, I don't think his heresy stuff's the best stuff he's done. Although, oh god, what was it called? It's the one when the lad's on tour. So it's Angron and Lorgar in Ultramar. That's going to really annoy me. I can't remember the name of it. That's really, really good. But a lot of the really good stuff. One of the first ones he did was Cadian Blood, which is the Plague of Unbelief. So it's Cadians surrounded by zombies. Pretty good. And then he did Hell's Reach, which I still think is the best book ever.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And incidentally, well worth a look on YouTube, anyone who's watching this, because there is a really good animated thing some guy did based off that.
Is that still there? I've not got taken down.
I haven't looked recently.
The advent of Warhammer TV. So a lot of those people who are producing that kind of stuff got bought up, didn't they, and moved into that. But
that's very true. I shall do a quick look while we.
I don't think he was one of the ones, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, Astartes disappeared, which was although there's been more stuff with that recently, isn't there?
Well, hasn't that been one of the ones that was kind of being reimagined for Warhammer TV?
Well, yeah, Hell's Reach the movie is up there.
Cool.
2.5 hours is the first result. I would definitely.
I watched them all when they were just individual bits as he slowly did them, so I might have to rewatch it as the full film.
Did a cracking job on that. It's very cool. Yeah, I still think it's his best book. And it's
so, it came down to authors there, didn't it? Betrayer. There you are. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but yes, but
as it so often does, it comes down to authors. Right.
I think that brings us to an end. So thank you to everyone who sent us a question.
Longest show we've ever done, without doubt. I don't even know how long, but it's definitely the longest one we've ever done. But it was always going to be. But yes,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Spend all you got to wait till probably middle of Jan now before you get, well, yeah, it will be middle of Jan, before you get another one of these. Looking at my schedule moving forward, maybe in the week leading up to the 7th, around then, we'll see. But yeah, so you watch it bit by bit, enjoy it slowly. But thank you to everyone who's given us questions. It's always good when you put those out and you don't know whether enough people are going to ask you questions to actually make a show out of, and nearly always do, which is really, really good. And thanks to the people who gave us multiple questions as well, and they're all some really good questions, interesting ones. People have put genuine thought into those questions, and put probably more thought into them than we did to the answers.
In some respects, yes.
But yeah, I've had lots of fun answering it, and it's been good doing it. So and thanks, Dan, for doing the document that you guys can't see, that I keep looking over if you wonder why I'm not always looking directly at the camera. But thanks to Dan for putting that together and making it easier than all the screenshots that I just clipped and stuck in the other document, which would have been a bit more of a nightmare to read from. Right, Dan, have you got anything before we end the show want to add?
Well, thanks for our first year, 2023. Thank you everyone for supporting us as usual, and saying nice things, and the people who say, I've watched it, I enjoyed it. That's always nice to hear. Even those people who've given us feedback that's perhaps not been quite so glowing, we really appreciate it. We can always improve things. So, by all means, pop us a comment. We can always join the Discord. Give us some comments in there, comment below the video, whatever you want to do. We always like to hear from you, always like to see your hobby, so please do consider joining the Discord. Consider joining Stu's Patreon as well. He does do some great stuff. So yeah, thanks very much.
Fantastic. Yep. We'll just echo all of that. Comment below, helps get the video pushed around and seen by other people. Give us a like if you've enjoyed it. Obviously, if you don't enjoy it, as Dan said, give us some feedback. We're always open to it, as long as it's friendly and respectful, etc. Don't have to agree with everything we said here. It's definitely not we are genuinely positive people, but don't mistake that for sycophancy, to be honest with you, because we do have plenty of things that we are unhappy about. We just don't always feel that using a platform to display those all the time is healthy for us in a hobby that we do as a pastime and as an enjoyable thing. And there's enough of that out on the internet anyway, so you can always go and sort those things out if you want to see a more negative view. But we'll always try and be fair, but I will always look to the good things more than the bad. And I think Dan does as well. But thank you very much for watching. Thanks for supporting the Hobby Hour this year, and thanks for supporting the channel, for those of you who watch my other videos and things as well. Take care. We'll catch you soon. Have a happy Christmas and New Year. And yeah, we'll catch you in the new year.